Chapter 694. Seeing Zhou Xuanji use the primordial chaos sword shadow and transform the great Tao into billions of sword shadows, the outside world was in an uproar. In order to survive, this brat would stop at nothing. Only the longbow divine range was excited. It seemed that Zhou Xuanji could still survive. Perhaps it would give them another surprise. Gu Hanyue looked at Zhou Xuanji with a weird expression and sighed. Is he really shameless? With so many sword shadows, he had to destroy all of them to eliminate his sword Tao. This was not easy, because these sword shadows were all flying around recklessly, and it was very easy for them to harm other great Taos. He was stirring up trouble. Among them, many sword shadows had already approached Ing Zhuge and Chu Machin. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "How shameless? This is a feast for the eyes for the spectators." That was true. Tens of billions of sword shadows filled the sacred arena. It was a spectacular sight. Even though countless creatures were cursing him for being shameless, it was undeniable that the atmosphere in the outside world was instantly ignited. The superstar divine official was satisfied. If Zhou Xuanji made it into the top 3 again, he would not be disgusted. Instead, it would be even more dramatic. The most important thing about the superstar competition was drama. If they were truly comparing aptitude and strength, why would they need to set up so many events? This was a stage that allowed the prodigies to display their talents in all aspects and boost their fame. The geniuses controlled the great path and charged forward, destroying the sword shadows one after another. It was as if fireworks were blooming above the sacred arena, extremely dazzling. Ji Huanglin and Gu Hanyue immediately stopped and looked up at the battle above. Although it was called a great battle, it was actually the geniuses' great Taos surrounding Zhou Xuanji's sword Tao. Zhou Xuanji's way of the sword was divided into too many parts. Even though they were not dangerous, it would be too difficult to destroy them all. The geniuses didn't dare to let their great Tao unleash its full power, because that would accidentally damage the great Tao of other geniuses. When that happened, they might be surrounded and attacked by other geniuses. The great Tao aptitude competition was coming to an end, so he had to be careful. After Chu Machin was infuriated by Ing Zhuge, he had no scruples at all. The battle between the two 17-star geniuses became more and more violent, and the scope of their battle rapidly expanded. Even though he was far away, Zhou Xuanji was still shocked. Too strong. He even suspected that the superstar divine official had not suppressed their great Taos to the Tao-treading venerable realm. No matter how confident Zhou Xuanji was, he felt that he had no chance of winning against these two geniuses. Soon, another prodigy was eliminated. When he was chasing the primordial chaos sword shadow, he accidentally hit another prodigy. In a short while, half of Zhou Xuanji's primordial chaos sword shadows were destroyed, but the remaining sword shadows were still massive in number. They circled above the sacred platform like a tornado with a diameter of 30,000 meters and a height that seemed limitless. What are you guys waiting for? Make your move. You don't have to worry about injuring my sword Tao. Zhou Xuanji reminded him, looking like he was ready to sacrifice himself for justice. Gu Hanyue and Ji Huanglin nodded and made their moves. Boom! Boom! The battle above them became even more intense. A violent gale blew, causing Zhou Xuanji's white clothes to flutter loudly. An hour later, in addition to the 3 of them, Ing Zhuge and Chu Machin, there were still 2 heavenly talents left. The chaotic battle came to a stop. Rulai Fu stared at Ji Huanglin and said solemnly, "Are you still going to be deceived by him?" Although this fellow had the name of Tathagata, he was not a Buddha. On the contrary, he was handsome and had long black hair. Ji Huanglin, expressionless, said, "Kill him first, then eliminate him. Can't you?" Rulai Fu almost exploded in anger. A Tao-treading saint could survive until now, but he, a 16-star prodigy, was going to be targeted? Stupid. He cursed Ji Huanglin in his heart. At this moment, countless creatures were also cursing Ji Huanglin. Because Zhou Xuanji had won first place twice in a row, the vast majority of creatures thought that he would not enter the top 3 again, because there had never been such a precedent. They made a lot of bets for this. In their eyes, Ji Huanglin was like their father's murderer. The other prodigy was also furious. He was ready to join forces with Rulai Fu to deal with Ji Huanglin. Wait! Zhou Xuanji suddenly took a step forward and stopped them. Before the two could speak, he took the lead and said, "Think about it. Even if we are eliminated, can you compete for the top two?" The two frowned. They understood what he meant, but they still didn't want to be fooled. "You've already come this far. Don't you want to go further?" Zhou Xuanji said with squinted eyes. "In the end, the two of you will have a higher chance of winning against the three of us than against the other two. You know better than me how powerful they are. Moreover, the two beside me won't let me go either. I'll be in the limelight if I get 5th place." When he finished speaking, the outside world was already in an uproar. "This brat, he's too despicable. Are these geniuses idiots? I can't watch this anymore." Of course, think about it from his perspective. If you were him, wouldn't you want to go further? That's right. Zhou Xuanji is really too weak. If he stays until the end, he will be the best opponent for them. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Most creatures were cursing Zhou Xuanji for being shameless, but there were also many who were convinced by him. Smart and quick-witted. If he was not powerful enough, he could only rely on his brain. Every time Zhou Xuanji spoke, he was very casual, as if he really didn't care about the ranking. Coupled with the World Fool's Sword, the ambitions of the geniuses would inevitably grow wildly. Ji Huanglin and Rulai Fu glanced at each other before turning to look at Zhuge and Chu Machin in the distance. Hundreds of millions of sword shadows rained down on Zhuge and Chu Machin's great Daos. Seeing Zhou Xuanji take the lead, Rulai Fu completely believed him. Zhou Xuanji obviously didn't want to be in the top 3. He just wanted to stay in the top 3 for a while. So, he was willing to be cannon fodder. Zhuge and Chu Machin's great Daos turned into 2 surging oceans with a diameter of 1,000 feet, just enough to cover them. Boom! 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 The 2 great Dao oceans blocked the primordial chaos sword shadow. The other 4 geniuses immediately rushed up, their great Daos following suit. "Humph! All of you get lost." Chu Machin snorted coldly and shouted in a deep voice. His great Dao immediately split into a fire dragon to resist the joint attack of the 4 geniuses. Zhuge could only be his opponent. He didn't allow others to intervene, even if one of the opponents was his good friend. Zhou Xuanji, watching from afar, sighed in his heart. Why do I feel that I can really enter the top 3? In fact, he was just trying to persuade them. So, his attitude didn't matter. But unknowingly, he had already entered the top 7. Interesting. While Chu Machin was distracted, Zhuge immediately erupted. The blue great Dao suddenly expanded, swallowing Chu Machin's great Dao. It was a shocking scene. Not good. Chu Machin's expression changed drastically. He had already ordered his great Dao to retreat. Ji Huanglin, Rulai Fu, and the other geniuses increased their offensive. This time, Chu Machin was besieged by 5 geniuses. The situation was not optimistic. How could this be? Chu Machin's expression was extremely ugly. Rulai Fu saw hope and worked even harder. Chapter 695. In the face of the joint attack of the 5 prodigies, Chu Machin's great Dao kept retreating, and he was in great pain. At this rate, he would lose without a doubt. After all, Rulai Fu, Ji Huanglin, and the other 2 heavenly geniuses were not easy to deal with. Coupled with the explosive strength of Zhuge, how could Chu Machin be a match for them? Zhou Xuanji did not stray too far away. He moved closer to them, looking like he was going to advance and retreat with the 4 of them. At this moment, the divine range behind Chu Machin was probably in an uproar. Zhou Xuanji could imagine the scene of countless creatures cursing at him. But he didn't care. In the Kunlun Origin Court, divine ranges couldn't fight directly. They could only fight through the Great Elimination. In the Great Elimination, everyone's power was about the same. So Zhou Xuanji was not afraid of anyone. In any case, he and Chu Machin wouldn't run into each other. After the time it takes to burn half an incense stick, Chu Machin finally couldn't take it anymore. His great Dao was blasted apart, and he was eliminated. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and the others furiously, gnashing his teeth. Gu Hanyue heaved a sigh of relief. She walked up to Zhou Xuanji and transmitted her voice. "You are really cunning." If it wasn't for Zhou Xuanji acting first, they would have been delayed for a long time, because the deterrence of Chu Machin and Ing Zhuge was too great. After Chu Machin was eliminated, the other geniuses all turned to Ing Zhuge. As long as they eliminated Ing Zhuge, they would have the qualifications to compete for first place. "Let's attack together," Ing Zhuge said softly, and the blue path above his head suddenly turned into a giant, roaring at the sky with an extremely strong momentum. Seeing this, the four geniuses immediately attacked Ing Zhuge together. Zhou Xuanji closed his eyes and comprehended the Tao. His heart quickly sank into absolute tranquility. Everything around him disappeared, and the great Taos appeared in his perception. Other than the great Taos of the five geniuses, he could also sense the existence of other great Taos stabilizing the sacred arena. He controlled his sword Tao to absorb the great Tao. The rules did not say that he could not cultivate on the spot, but he could not use his treasures. Otherwise, he could rely on the Tianxiao map to provide him with an endless supply of Tao power. Of course, the other Sky Prides definitely had similar methods. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji had entered a state of cultivation, the living beings in the outside world were incredibly excited. "You can still cultivate? Real Fu. Look behind you." It's not that they don't want to watch it, but they are busy dealing with Ing Zhuge. "My God, I feel more and more that Zhou Xuanji will counterattack." "You're not alone." Everyone was very excited because the outcome of the Great Tao Aptitude competition was about to be decided. The beings of the Longbow Divine Range were also very excited. As long as Zhou Xuanji could enter the top 3, he would create history. He was the only 12-star prodigy who had managed to obtain first place twice and top 3 once in his first attempt. To be precise, no one below the 15-star prodigies had ever won first place twice in a single superstar competition. This kid, the old beggar's eyes widened and cold sweat covered his forehead. He stared at the screen of light in the sky and prayed for Zhou Xuanji. The others did the same. Even Xiao Hu, who was usually very talkative, shut his mouth and watched the battle nervously. A look of anticipation appeared in Xian Xianghua's eyes. She believed that Zhou Xuanji could give her a pleasant surprise. Boom, boom, boom. 5 types of great Taos collided madly with peerless might, causing the sacred arena to shake violently. Gu Hanyue looked back and saw that Zhou Xuanji was in a meditative state. She immediately became angry. She transmitted her voice and asked, "What do you want? Quietly recover while we're fighting? You want to catch us all in one fell swoop?" Zhou Xuanji calmly replied, "Even if I'm at my peak, can I defeat anyone here? I don't care, come here quickly." Gu Hanyue's tone was filled with impatience. If she listened to Zhou Xuanji again, this kid might really become first. "I can't tolerate it anymore." Real Fu and the prodigies next to him also threw a threatening glance at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji sighed and had no choice but to charge forward with his sword Tao. He once again used the primordial chaos sword shadow, turning into billions of sword shadows. He first used a billion sword shadows to explore the way before charging forward. Rumble. The 5 great Taos were hit by his billion sword shadows, slamming into the light screen at the edge of the sacred arena, as if they were about to break through the light screen. "You," Real Fu said angrily. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. Although Zhou Xuanji had accidentally damaged their great Taos, they couldn't blame Zhou Xuanji, who made him so weak. In addition, once he got close to Ing Zhuge, his great Tao would be destroyed. Ing Zhuge's great Tao giant shook his arms, directly shattering the billion sword shadows. It was extremely domineering. Immediately afterward, the great Tao giant raised his arms as 2 beams of blue light emerged from his palms and soared into the sky. The 2 beams merged into one, condensing into a lightsaber that was 50,000 feet long. The lightsaber slashed downward, bringing with it a sharp gust of wind. The four prodigies immediately manipulated their great Daos to cast their divine abilities to block this saber. Boom! The great Daos of Gu Hanyue and another prodigy were directly cut in half. Ji Huanglin and Rulai Fu's great Daos couldn't withstand it and bounced back one after another. This, Gu Hanyue's beautiful eyes widened. She couldn't believe her eyes. The superstar divine official waved his hand and moved them behind him. Gu Hanyue looked back and met Zhou Xuanji's gaze. Zhou Xuanji looked regretful. He even shook his head regretfully. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. This was completely different from what she had expected. She suddenly felt that she had been played by Zhou Xuanji. But thinking about it carefully, Zhou Xuanji didn't target her. She had lost to Ying Zhuge. At the same time, Ying Zhuge erupted and took the initiative to attack Ji Huanglin and Rulai Fu. Not good. Rulai Fu's expression changed drastically as he quickly retreated. He didn't want to be unable to even get into the top 3. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji's great Dao condensed into the shape of a silver sword. It quickly rushed to the back of Rulai Fu's great Dao and slashed wildly. Rulai Fu was caught off guard. He had no time to resist because Ying Zhuge was charging at him. He quickly dodged, staying away from Zhou Xuanji. Ji Huanglin charged at him from the other side. Damn you, Rulai Fu cursed. Why am I being attacked by a group of people all of a sudden? Under the interception of Ji Huanglin's great Dao, Rulai Fu's great Dao could no longer dodge. Zhou Xuanji controlled his sword Dao to cast Void Instant Kill. Swish! Rulai Fu's great Dao was pierced. Rulai Fu's eyes looked hideous. Fortunately, his great Dao was strong enough to hold on. However, Ying Zhuge's great Dao giant appeared behind him out of thin air. With a slash, his great Dao was directly cut off. Rulai Fu, a 16-star prodigy, was eliminated. Only Zhou Xuanji, Ji Huanglin, and Ying Zhuge were left on the sacred arena. Boom! The entire Kunlun Origin Court was in an uproar. Everyone went crazy. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. A Dao treading saint was able to get into the top 3 of the Great Dao Talent Competition with his own wits. My Origin Court, you aren't lying to me, right? Damn, it's definitely an act. I don't believe it. There must be a divine range controlling the betting. My merit points are all gone. I can't live anymore. These bastards, there's something wrong with their brains. Zhou Xuanji got into the top 3. I can't bear it. I absolutely can't bear it. Are you telling me this is true? Chapter 696. Top 3. Zhou Xuanji let out a long sigh, a smile appearing on his face. This result had already made him very happy. Whatever happens next, he twisted his neck with a relaxed look on his face. Ji Huanglin and Ying Zhuge, on the other hand, were at loggerheads. Neither of them took Zhou Xuanji seriously because Zhou Xuanji's sword Dao was pitifully weak. Moreover, if they attacked Zhou Xuanji, it would give the other person a chance to take advantage of him. Ji Huanglin, I admire you very much. Just admit defeat directly. Otherwise, it will affect your performance in the competition of strength, Ying Zhuge said with an indifferent look. He was like a proud and aloof emperor. He didn't put Ji Huanglin in his eyes at all. The corner of Ji Huanglin's mouth rose as he said with a smile, there aren't many opportunities to fight with you. Not to mention, in terms of real strength, I am indeed not as good as you. But now you and I should fight. Not far away, Zhou Xuanji asked, Ji Huanglin, do you want me to help you? He had taken advantage of Ji Huanglin a lot. He wanted to return the favor. As for winning or not, he didn't care. 3rd place was enough. Sharpness was easy to break. No need, just watch from the side. If I win, you still have the hope of competing for 1st place. If I lose, it doesn't matter to me who the 2nd place is, Ji Huanglin replied. His eyes didn't leave Ying Zhuge at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he directly controlled the Great Dao and slammed into Ying Zhuge's Great Dao giant. A great battle broke out again. Zhou Xuanji blinked. Is he going to give me the 2nd place? He sighed. This time, it's really not that I want to be the 2nd place, shamelessly. His sigh was seen by all living beings. They could use their divine will to scan the light screen and hear their conversation. Shameless. This is two. Oh my God. He still has a helpless look on his face. This is totally taking advantage of him and still acting innocent. Are the thoughts of super geniuses so strange? Why didn't I meet such a genius when I participated in the superstar competition? Everyone exclaimed. Ji Huanglin's words made countless creatures vomit blood, especially those creatures who bet on him to get second place. Losing everything, the entire Longbow divine range shook. Old ancestor Longbow's loud laughter came from the top. Even though he had a high cultivation, he couldn't cover the cheers of the entire divine range. Even though Zhou Xuanji had won first place twice, the creatures still didn't expect him to enter the top 3. From the looks of it, he could still get second place. Once he became second, the Longbow divine range would truly have a turnaround. Ever since Zhou Xuanji got first place in the Dao debate, the Longbow divine range had gained many industries and good relations with the divine ranges. Together with the merit points they had bet on Zhou Xuanji, they had made a lot of money. It was no exaggeration to say that Zhou Xuanji had become the hero of the Longbow divine range. Even the other divine ranges nearby benefited from him. Zhou Xuanji was meditating on the ground with his arms folded across his chest, quietly watching the battle between Ji Huanglin and Ing Zhuge. It could be seen that Ji Huanglin was no match for Ing Zhuge. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Ing Zhuge, on the other hand, was calm and collected. Who was this guy in his previous life? That's way too strong. Zhou Xuanji sighed in his heart. In his eyes, Ing Zhuge's aura was no different from a Dao ancestor. It was hard to imagine how terrifying this guy would be if he was unrestricted. Ing Zhuge said, Ji Huanglin, are you sure you want to continue? Ji Huanglin's expression didn't change as he continued to attack. Ing Zhuge shook his head, and then his eyes narrowed. The great Dao giant suddenly rose and angrily slashed at Ji Huanglin's great Dao. Boom! A bright light burst out. Ji Huanglin took 12 steps back. His face turned pale. He wasn't defeated. He was still holding on. His great Dao was like a fallen leaf in the wind and rain. It would scatter at any time. It's over. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. He couldn't wait to end it. After the Great Dao Talent Competition was the competition of strength. Soon, the superstar competition would end. He could then cultivate in peace and become stronger as soon as possible. What he was looking forward to the most was the Great Dao Tempering Pool. It would be great if his Sword Dao could transform. Just as Zhou Xuanji was lost in his thoughts, Ji Huanglin's Great Dao suddenly burst out with a bright light. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. Zhou Xuanji was sent flying by a powerful and unstoppable gust of wind. He crashed into the light curtain on the edge of the sacred arena. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, spilling all over the ground. Damn! Zhou Xuanji cursed in his heart. He felt a churning pain in his internal organs. He even felt as if he was seeing stars. He landed on the ground and forced himself not to kneel down. The Great Dao Talent Competition is over. Longbow Divine Range's 12-star genius Zhou Xuanji won first place. He'll get 5 billion merit points and the opportunity of the Great Dao Tempering Pool for half a year. The Superstar Divine official's voice came from the sky. The sacred arena immediately fell silent. All the geniuses floating in the air were dumbfounded. They didn't expect this result at all. On the other side of the sacred arena, Ing Zhuge and Ji Huanglin also stopped. They also looked a little surprised. Ing Zhuge furrowed his brow. A look of displeasure flashed in his eyes. Ji Huanglin was stunned. He fell into a trance. Zhou Xuanji was also stunned. Happiness came too fast. He couldn't react in time. I won just like that. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Ing Zhuge and Ji Huanglin in confusion. The uproar of the Kunlun Origin Court had already caused the universe space to tremble. Mother asterisk Kerr, is this real? Are you kidding me? He can win like that. Is he pretending to be injured? This is too fake. Protest. He won. One upset. My merit points. I'm not convinced. This is definitely a shady deal in the superstar competition. A million years later, I must tell my descendants not to bet in the superstar competition. Absolutely not. All the divine ranges and origin cities were in an uproar. Shouts, exclamations, cheers, screams, and so on converged together. It was deafening. 5 billion. I'm rich, Zhou Xuanji smiled. He looked very calm on the surface, but he would laugh his head off in the future. In this superstar competition, he had obtained a total of 7 billion merit points. 7 billion. Some small divine ranges could only earn so many merit points in a year. Next, the superstar divine official sent them out of the sacred arena. Zhou Xuanji is also the first person under the age of 1,000 to win first place in the superstar competition 3 times. He is also the one with the best results under 15-star aptitude. Remember, he is less than 600 years old this year. He is not a native of the Kunlun origin court, nor is he the reincarnation of a powerful cultivator. He comes from a mortal world and has fought his way to this point. Please remember this name. He will shine in the entire Kunlun origin court. The superstar divine official's tone was impassioned. Countless creatures came back to their senses and were shocked. In the eyes of most creatures, Zhou Xuanji was a dark horse. But they didn't expect his experience to be so legendary. He's less than 600 years old, and he came from a mortal world. The superstar divine official's words changed Zhou Xuanji's image. He had changed from a wretched and scrupulous villain to a hard-working, inspiring miracle. Chapter 697. After returning to the superstar sacred steel, Zhou Xuanji caught the attention of all the geniuses. Even Ingzhuge and Chu Machun were looking at him. Ingzhuge's eyes were filled with curiosity. He was attracted by Zhou Xuanji's experience. Chu Machun, on the other hand, had a complicated expression. He was very angry, but he knew that he should not vent his anger on Zhou Xuanji, because that would be unbecoming of a powerful cultivator. He could only hate those super prodigies who had eliminated him. Gu Hanyue quickly walked up to Zhou Xuanji and said angrily, "You are really something? How could you get first place like that? Did you deliberately let your guard down just now?" Zhou Xuanji won the first place by being accidentally injured. It was so dramatic that Gu Hanyue was very envious. She originally had a bad impression of Zhou Xuanji, but seeing that he really got first place, she could not help but change her opinion of him. No matter what, the result was everything. It was not as simple as luck to be able to rank first in the Great Tao with the cultivation of a Tao-treading saint. Together with the superstar divine official's introduction, she looked at Zhou Xuanji again and felt that there was a halo around him. "You really did it on purpose. That's good," Zhou Xuanji said helplessly as he wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. To be honest, he really didn't expect this. The other geniuses came up to congratulate Zhou Xuanji. After hearing the superstar divine official's words, they all felt that Zhou Xuanji was not just a 12-star genius. Such a prodigy must be befriended. Fierce Lightning Sovereign sized up Zhou Xuanji from high up in the sky and was shocked in his heart. He did not expect such a character to appear in this superstar competition. He previously felt that this superstar competition wouldn't be too exciting because he had hosted many superstar competitions. He felt that this superstar competition would only be a contest between Ingzhuge and Chu Machun. After living for countless years, he had even seen 18-star prodigies. 2 17-star prodigies naturally wouldn't pique his interest. This brat is interesting. I reckon that Ji Zun will like him. The corners of fierce Thunder Sovereign's mouth curled upwards. These words were spoken in his heart. Since the competition of strength was the last event, the superstar competition would give the geniuses some time to rest in order to make it exciting. At the same time, it was a chance for all the divine ranges and origin cities to open their bids. Zhou Xuanji became the most popular person. Almost all the geniuses came up to befriend him. Those who had lost to him in the past also took the initiative to express their goodwill. They weren't stupid. After the superstar competition, Zhou Xuanji would definitely soar into the sky and become a powerful existence. coupled with his growth speed, only God knew what kind of existence he would become. He had become the champion of the superstar competition 3 times before he was 600 years old. Furthermore, he had come from the lower realm and fought his way up as a mortal. They even cursed in their hearts. Who had tested Zhou Xuanji for 12-star aptitude? It was as if he was deliberately tricking them. The outside world. Hong Yuan, the high-level examiner who had tested Zhou Xuanji's aptitude, was covered in cold sweat. He could not sit still. This kid, Hong Yuan was also doubting himself. Why could he not see through Zhou Xuanji? Could it be that there was really a problem with his assessment ability? He fell into a daze, unable to extricate himself. Zhou Xuanji recuperated as he waited for the competition of strength to begin. It took a lot of time to exchange pleasantries with more than 2,000 prodigies, and he had to endure the pain. About half a month passed. The competition of strength had finally begun. This time, all the top 100 super prodigies were participating. Just like the Great Dao Talent competition, it was a chaotic battle. However, they could go all out in the competition of strength. They did not have to worry about hurting others. The superstar divine official would try his best to save them. But if a prodigy died tragically, it would be normal. The divine ranges could not object. The sacred arena, which was tens of thousands of meters wide, seemed so small. A terrifying battle broke out between a group of people who surpassed Dao Ancestor. The light screen of the sacred arena twisted wildly, as if it would shatter at any time. Zhou Xuanji was also watching the battle. He found that his eyes could not keep up with the speed of these prodigies. Too fast. A bunch of freaks, Zhou Xuanji exclaimed in amazement. Zhou Xuanji was amazed. He heard that none of the top 100 geniuses were more than 10,000 years old. In the entire superstar competition, the oldest one was no more than 100,000 years old. 100,000 years old was still considered young in the Kunlun Origin Court. This battle lasted for a long time. The outcome was not beyond anyone's expectations. Ing Zhuge, who was going all out, beat up the entire battlefield. He fought all the prodigies alone. No 116-star aptitude could take a single move from him. He was so powerful that he could explode. This battle was the least suspenseful. Before this, Zhou Xuanji thought that Chu Machin would have a 50-50 chance against Ing Zhuge. He didn't expect Chu Machin to be pressed to the ground and hammered. Even if someone joined forces with him to deal with Ing Zhuge, they still had no power to resist. Zhou Xuanji got up slowly and looked at the geniuses descending from the cloud vortex. His eyes were locked on Ing Zhuge. Ing Zhuge felt his gaze and couldn't help but look over. Their eyes met, and their gazes collided in the air. If it was before their great Dao aptitude, Ing Zhuge would definitely not have taken a fancy to Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji, work hard to grow. I want to fight with you at the same stage. Ing Zhuge looked down at Zhou Xuanji and said. His voice was loud and clear, resounding through the sea of clouds. All the geniuses heard him and looked at Zhou Xuanji in surprise. Zhou Xuanji nodded lightly and did not reply. It wasn't that he was afraid, but he didn't have the right to say nice words. He could only use his actions to prove himself. The Great Dao Tempering Pool will open at any time after the Superstar competition. Everyone can head to the Void Boundary Palace. There's a teleportation array there. The ferocious Thunder Sovereign said. Then, teleportation gates rose from the ground one after another, as though they were virtual projections. At this point, the Superstar competition was over. Zhou Xuanji turned around and was about to leave. Gu Hanyue came up to him. Her face was covered in blood, and her hair was a little messy. But she still looked excited. Zhou Xuanji, when are you going to the Great Dao Tempering Pool? Zhou Xuanji glanced at her and asked, Why? You want to take a bath with me? Gu Hanyue's face immediately turned cold when she heard this. She snorted and said, Wishful thinking. I just want to know more about you. If possible, you can come to our divine range. We are a top-tier divine range that ranks in the top 100. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, I have no intention of going to other divine ranges for the time being. He continued to move forward and walked toward the teleportation gate. Gu Hanyue's beautiful eyes widened. She was so angry that she couldn't speak. This kid tricked me, and he doesn't want to talk to me for a while. No wonder his talent is so terrifying. He must have spent all his time on cultivation. What blockhead! A month later, find heavenly sage Zhun Yin in the Void Boundary Palace. He will take you to reassess your aptitude. Ferocious Thunder Sovereign's voice suddenly rang in Zhou Xuanji's ears. Zhou Xuanji looked back and could no longer see Ferocious Thunder Sovereign. He smiled, turned around, walked into the teleportation gate, and disappeared. Back in the Saint Competition building in the Origin City, Zhou Xuanji was greeted by deafening cheers the moment he walked out of the teleportation array. He opened his eyes and found that the entire Saint Competition building was packed. Everyone was looking at him with excitement and fanaticism. Some even knelt down on the spot and worshipped him. Chapter 698. Zhou Xuanji, you're too powerful. Admirable. How did you do it? Your performance in the Great Tao is heaven-defying. He's so young. Seeing him with my own eyes, it feels so unreal. In this superstar competition, apart from Ingzhuge, he's the most in the limelight. Did he really come from the lower realm? Looking at these people's excited expressions, Zhou Xuanji shook his head and smiled before disappearing. Chengjiu, Longbow Patriarch, Yu Shenzhong, and other members of the Longbow Divine Range were already waiting outside. There's so many people. How do we squeeze in? Yu Shenzhong was so anxious that he kept stomping his feet. He couldn't possibly make a move, as that would make too many enemies. Ancestor Longbow was still in a state of excitement. No one knew what he was mumbling. At that moment, Zhou Xuanji appeared in front of them, and they quickly surrounded him. Everyone was so excited that they were talking incoherently. Under their escort, Zhou Xuanji returned to the Longbow Divine Range. Along the way, they met many creatures. Those creatures were very excited to see Zhou Xuanji. The Superstar competition was a grand event for the entire Kunlun Origin Court. All creatures had seen Zhou Xuanji, so they could recognize him at a glance. Now, Zhou Xuanji was a well-known face in the Kunlun Origin Court. His fame spread throughout the universe in a single day. After returning to the Yu family, Zhou Xuanji directly went to the courtyard. Xian Xianghua, the old beggar, and Yu Zhongxiu had been waiting for a long time, and seeing him, they all leapt at him. Xian Xianghua was the first to hug him. She pinched his face and said with a smile, "Lang Jun, you're really amazing." This time, she did not add the word little in front of Lang Jun. The others followed suit and fought to be the first to speak. Zhou Xuanji did not know who to answer. He had already guessed that this would happen, so he was not surprised. The Superstar competition was conducted in front of everyone's eyes. Zhou Xuanji didn't need to introduce the process. He just talked about his state of mind. Everyone was speechless when they learned that this guy was very calm in the Superstar competition. Actually, this was very normal. One could not feel the excitement of all living beings in the sacred arena. After chatting for 2 hours, Zhou Xuanji returned to his room. Xian Xianghua followed him into the house. They were already husband and wife. Usually, when Xian Xianghua came back, she would stay in his room. Yu Zhongxiu would avoid looking at her every time. After returning to Skyfall, the two of them gathered all of Emperor Sword Court's higher-ups. Xian Xianghua was the first to tell everyone about this matter, and everyone fell into a state of shock. How long has it been? Father, is what Aunt Xian said true? Zhou Shaoxian swallowed her saliva. She didn't know how strong a Tao ancestor was, let alone how high the 9 vast heavens were. But Zhou Xuanji had conquered the top of the universe. Even his own daughter couldn't believe it. Jiangshua looked at Zhou Xuanji with a face full of admiration. She hugged his right arm with both of her hands like a little bird. Daoya old man sighed. Monster, monster! Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Songjian, Lin Chang'e, and the others were so excited that they kept waving their fists. Too domineering. Too awesome. Even the ceiling at the peak of the universe could not block Zhou Xuanji's brilliance. You guys cultivate well. I will let Xian Xianghua manage the 24-stage Deep Black Lotus. When your cultivation is high enough, I will bring you guys to the Kunlun Origin Court one by one. As for me, I will cultivate with all my might. One day, I will open a divine vein for the Emperor's Sword Court, and we won't have to depend on others. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. His words made everyone's blood boil. Open divine meridians. Strive for the Origin Court. Thinking about the great eliminations, professions, and all kinds of competitions in the Kunlun Origin Court, they couldn't help but feel excited. That was the real stage. On the same day, the Emperor's Sword Court held a banquet to celebrate. The disciples of the Emperor's Sword Court thought that their grand teacher had returned. They were all very happy and excited. As for the existence of the Kunlun Origin Court, it was not made public. Knowing about the Kunlun Origin Court too early was not a good thing for the disciples of the Emperor's Sword Court. It was easy to bite off more than they could chew and not be satisfied with their current achievements. It was like a person who knew that his grandfather was a billionaire. His usual salary was 2,000 yuan, and his grandfather threw 10,000 yuan to him, but he still felt that it was nothing. It was difficult to feel a sense of accomplishment. After a few days of revelry, Zhou Xuanji preached to the disciples of the Emperor's Sword Court. He used the Sword Master Haki and Great Tao's voice to lead the tens of millions of disciples to cultivate. After 20 days, he left the world in the lotus and handed the 24-stage deep black lotus to Xian Xianghua. At the same time, he gave Xian Xianghua 10 million merit points to go out and do fewer missions. He told her to stay in the Kunlun Origin Court and cultivate well. With Xian Xianghua's strength, it was too dangerous for her to leave the Kunlun Origin Court. Xian Xianghua had no objection to this. After witnessing the superstar competition, she also wanted to cultivate well. At least, she wanted to increase her cultivation. Zhou Xuanji left the Yu family and prepared to go to the Void Boundary Palace. After that, he would enter the Great Tao Tempering Pool to cultivate. Just as he was about to fly out of the Longbow Divine Range, old ancestor Longbow suddenly blocked his way. Brother Zhou, are you going to the Great Tao Tempering Pool? Old ancestor Longbow asked with a smile. He looked a little nervous. In the past month, the Longbow Divine Range had been trampled by envoys from various divine ranges. These divine ranges were all stronger than the Longbow Divine Range, making it difficult for him to neglect any of them. Even the top 1,000 divine range giants had sent envoys to visit him. Yes, what can I do for you? Zhou Xuanji nodded. He had guessed the other party's intention. Now, he didn't lack merit points. As long as the Longbow Divine Range dared to keep him, he would continue to stay. You are already famous. You need to be careful. Some divine ranges will do anything to rope you in. Old ancestor Longbow sighed. He used to place his hopes on Zhou Xuanji. But now, he couldn't take it anymore. The conditions offered by those giants were too generous. With those conditions, the Longbow Divine Range would be out of danger and even reach a higher level. And if Zhou Xuanji grew stronger, he would fly away sooner or later. But he really couldn't bear to part with Zhou Xuanji. With Zhou Xuanji around, the Longbow Divine Range would be popular. Not only could it earn a lot of merit points, but it could also attract countless creatures to flock to the Longbow Divine Range. Now, who didn't know that the Longbow Divine Range had found a super genius from the black market? Such a thing was extremely rare, even in history. Zhou Xuanji asked with narrowed eyes, Senior, if you have any difficulties, you can tell me at any time. Your Longbow Divine Range took me in, which is why I have today's prestige. No matter where I am in the future, the Longbow Divine Range will always be in my heart. If I can dominate the Origin Court in the future, I will surely support the Longbow Divine Range. These words were spoken from the bottom of his heart. If it was another divine range who bought him, he might still be a slave. Hearing this, old ancestor Longbow was moved. He even had a feeling of tears in his eyes. He patted Zhou Xuanji's shoulder heavily and said, I will try my best to keep you. But if I encounter a divine range that can really help you develop better, I will let you go. Whether you leave or stay, you can rest assured. Even if I have to hand you over, I will choose a divine range that is truly suitable for you. That was all he had to say. He had made himself very clear. Zhou Xuanji exchanged some pleasantries with him before heading to the Origin City. No matter where he went, his strength was the most important. Chapter 699. Zhou Xuanji came to the Void Boundary Palace through the Origin City's Vocation Palace. He came to the tower where heavenly sage Yin had appeared before and waited. Sure enough, in less than 10 breaths of time, Empyrean Yin appeared. Fierce Thunder Venerate had said that if he came to the Great Tao Tempering Pool, he would have to find Heavenly Venerate Yin to retest his aptitude. You did very well in the Superstar competition. I will use my connections to let you stay in the Great Tao Tempering Pool for a year. Make good use of it. Empyrean Yin smiled and said kindly. He was like a completely different person from before. It was evident that Zhou Xuanji had given him a big surprise. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Many thanks, Heavenly Sovereign." Empyrean Yin smiled and said, "There's no need to thank me. Continue to maintain your sharpness. The better you perform, the more benefits I can gain and the more face I will have." After that, he brushed past Zhou Xuanji and said, "Follow me. I will bring you to test your talent again." Zhou Xuanji immediately followed. Now that he had created a sword Dao, his aptitude should be even higher. However, he wasn't expecting too much. At least he knew his own limits. Under the lead of heavenly sage Yin, Zhou Xuanji came to an empty palace. The walls were engraved with many ancient patterns. They were vivid and lifelike, as if many divine beasts would rush out at any time. As soon as they walked in, a golden mirror rose from the ground. It was 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall. Standing in front of it, your aptitude will be completely revealed, including your potential. Empyrean Yin said with some anticipation in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji walked up to the golden mirror curiously. Under his gaze, there was no change in the golden mirror. It was still calm. He waited patiently, not in a hurry. Time ticked by. After the time it took half an incense stick to burn, Zhou Xuanji frowned. It couldn't be broken, could it? He was about to turn around and ask Empyrean Yin when a line of words appeared on the mirror. Heavenly Tao Creation Heart Exterminating Divine Eyes Diagram of Providence Serendipity Great Way of the Sword. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide. Wasn't this too detailed? It could even detect the fortuitous opportunity of the primordial world. Aptitude cannot be determined. Can be an 18-star aptitude. A cold voice came from the golden mirror, which stunned Zhou Xuanji. 18-star? Heavenly Venerable Yin's eyes also widened, and both of them instantly became anxious. 18-star, just a 12-star aptitude was enough for him to open the back door and take care of him. What did 18-star aptitude mean to him? Even he couldn't speak. At this moment, his mind was blank. There was surprise, bewilderment, and a strong sense of dread. Such a genius was not someone he could control. If there were no accidents, Zhou Xuanji would catch up to him in 10,000 years. The more he thought about it, the more complicated it became. Zhou Xuanji turned and looked at him with a complicated gaze. Now that his trump card was exposed in front of Empyrean Yin, he was naturally a little unhappy. Empyrean Yin sighed and said, 18 stars, unbelievable. Zhou Xuanji could not help but ask, "You saw it just now?" When Empyrean Yin heard this, he immediately laughed loudly. Only the examiner will be able to see his own potential, while the others can only hear the report from the mirror. This is also a form of protection for the geniuses. The only existence that can see your potential is probably the sovereign. However, the sovereign is busy in seclusion, so how would he have the time to pay attention to your mirror? Empyrean Yin shook his head and smiled. After saying that, he became excited again. An 18-star aptitude. How many years had it been since the Kunlun Origin Court had given birth to such a genius? Furthermore, this kid was not the reincarnation of an ancient almighty being. He immediately said, "Go to the Great Tao Tempering Pool first. Work hard." After that, he personally brought Zhou Xuanji to the Great Tao Tempering Pool. The Great Tao Tempering Pool was located above the Void Boundary Palace. It belonged to another realm and was heavily guarded. The ordinary soldiers guarding this place all had Tao ancestor cultivation, and the general guarding this place was even more unfathomable. Even Empyrean Jun, Yin had to bow to him. Dark clouds roiled here. There was a giant door in front of them, and above it was endless darkness. This boy has 18-star aptitude. I hope everyone can give him as much time as possible. Heavenly Sage Jun Yin said, cupping his fists. As soon as he said this, all the soldiers looked at Zhou Xuanji in shock. The Guardian General was 100 feet tall. He was wearing heavy black armor with a breastplate that looked like a dragon's head. His face was covered in a long beard, making him look like a demonic version of Zhang Fei. He looked down at Zhou Xuanji and said in amazement, 18-star aptitude. No wonder you performed so well in the superstar competition. All right, go in. You can stay inside for 2 years. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. 2 years already? It seemed like the Kunlun Origin Court really gave preferential treatment to geniuses. He immediately bowed and walked into the giant door. Heavenly Sage Jun Yin left quickly after bowing to the Guardian General. It wouldn't take long for Zhou Xuanji's aptitude to spread throughout the Kunlun Origin Court. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji was walking on the sea of clouds. Along the way, he saw many warm water pools hidden in the clouds. Some were big, some were small, and most of the pools were already occupied. It was dead silent here. Only after walking in did he realize that there were so many powerful cultivators here. He didn't make a sound and soon found a great Tao-tempering pool without any spirit. He walked straight into the pool and felt cold all over his body. He crossed his legs and began to circulate the greatly divine suppressor technique. Boom! Zhou Xuanji felt that he was in the great Tao. As soon as he started cultivating, he felt that Tao energy was rushing at him from all directions, making his consciousness fall into chaos. His eyes unconsciously opened, revealing a pair of purple eyes that looked incomparably demonic. Longbow Divine Range, inside the Ancestral Hall. Old Ancestor Longbow and a group of high-level figures were standing in the hall. Sitting on the main seat was an evil-looking man. He was wearing a black and purple dragon robe. 2 fangs could be seen under his lips. He was wearing a phoenix feather crown on his head. He was sitting lazily. There was another person standing next to him. It was Ji Huanglin. Have you thought about it? The man in the dragon robe asked casually. Although his eyes were calm, they were full of majesty. Old Ancestor Longbow gritted his teeth and said, Sovereign, your conditions are indeed generous, but you must guarantee that after Zhou Xuanji goes to your place, you will train him with all your might. You can't let him be neglected. Sovereign. The man in the dragon robe was the range master of the 19th Divine Range. His name was Beast Sovereign. His strength was unfathomable. Beast Sovereign snorted and said in a displeased tone, If this sovereign doesn't value him, will I come in person? In the past, old Ancestor Longbow wouldn't even be qualified to see him. But for him to speak like this was already giving him enough face. Old Ancestor Longbow sighed and said, I agree. Ji Huanglin rolled his eyes and said, You already have enough resources. You have made a big profit this time. Don't you think it's a little rude to show an expression of being bullied? Old Ancestor Longbow felt embarrassed and quickly apologized. The other high-level figures of the Longbow Divine Range looked delighted. This was a deal that satisfied them all. It could even be said that they were pleasantly surprised. A genius like Zhou Xuanji would be a hidden danger if he stayed in the Longbow Divine Range. It felt so good to have such a surprise while sending him away. Chapter 700. Zhou Xuanji didn't know about the deal between Longbow Divine Range and Beast Sovereign. He was immersed in the great Tao tempering pool. At this moment, his mind was in a mysterious state. His consciousness was empty, but it was still there. This feeling was very mysterious. Perhaps this was the absolute calm that the old immortal mentioned. He instinctively activated the greatly divine suppressor technique and began cultivating. Time flew. God knew how long it had been. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt his soul shake. His consciousness instantly sobered up. He found himself immersed in the great Tao tempering pool. Sword Daos wrapped around his body and materialized into dozens of silver swords. It was very dazzling. This Zhou Xuanji was pleasantly surprised. He found that his sword Daos were more than 100 times stronger. He immediately entered a meditative state and began devouring the Dao energy around him to help his cultivation grow rapidly. The Dao energy here was endless and didn't have any strong resistance. He could absorb it like a sponge. Awesome. This is so awesome. Zhou Xuanji wanted to let out a long cry, but it was very difficult to do so in the Great Dao tempering pool. Moreover, it could easily affect others who were cultivating. Time continued to pass. On this day, he finally broke through. Intermediate Dao treading saint. The Dao energy was like a stream that turned into a majestic river. It was unstoppable. The violent Dao energy made the water in the Great Dao tempering pool churn as if the water was boiling. Fortunately, it didn't make any sound. The surface of the pool was still calm. Under such a state, Zhou Xuanji continued to cultivate. His greatly divine suppressor technique was also improving endlessly. It was unstoppable. No wonder the Great Dao tempering pool became the biggest attraction of the superstar competition. It was really exciting. If he could continue cultivating here, he didn't even dare to predict how powerful he would become. The speed of cultivation here was incomparable to the 4-star Dao rooms. Unfortunately, time passed quickly. A year passed in the blink of an eye. While Zhou Xuanji was cultivating, he was suddenly pulled out of the Great Dao tempering pool by an extremely powerful force. When he opened his eyes again, he was standing in front of the giant gate. You can break through to the intermediate Dao treading saint in just a year. If you stay here for 100 years, won't you become a Dao ancestor directly? A 700-year-old Dao ancestor, TSK, the guardian general sighed. The general sighed in amazement. Zhou Xuanji got up and bowed to him. Senior, how can I obtain the opportunity of the Great Dao tempering pool? Zhou Xuanji cupped his fist and asked. Anticipation could be seen in his eyes. The defending general couldn't help but laugh and said boldly, Go back and ask Heavenly Venerable Zhenyan. In order to nurture you, he will definitely arrange relevant missions for you. Zhou Xuanji noticed his strange expression, and so did the soldiers around him. Their gazes were filled with respect and admiration. He had not been like this before entering the Great Dao tempering pool. Zhou Xuanji did not think too much and left quickly. Returning to the Void Boundary Hall, he did not go to find Empyrean Zhenyan, but directly returned home. A year had passed. He had to go back and take a look. Although she had the protection of the Longbow Divine Range, he was still worried about her. Along the way, every living being that saw him would exclaim in surprise. It's him, Zhou Xuanji. He came out of the Void Boundary Palace. An 18-star prodigy. It's too scary. No wonder he was able to win first place in the superstar competition 3 times in a row. Why aren't those who mocked him jumping out anymore? Origin Court is really laughable. An 18-star genius was misjudged to be 12-star. They almost buried Zhou Xuanji. His cultivation has already reached the mid-stage of the Dao treading saint. Zhou Xuanji listened to these discussions with a strange expression. The news of him attaining 18-star aptitude had spread so quickly. Was it done by the Origin Court? Or was it deliberately pushed by Heavenly Venerable Zhenyan? Not only that, but he also heard about the deal between the Longbow Divine Range and the Evil Sky Divine Range. The Longbow Divine Range couldn't withstand the pressure and wanted to send him out. The Evil Sky Divine Range was ranked 19th among the Super Divine Ranges. Ji Huanglin also belonged to this divine range. Zhou Xuanji was not disappointed by this, but rather looked forward to it. If he entered the Evil Sky Divine Range, would he be able to obtain the fortuitous opportunity of the Great Dao tempering pool? He was already addicted to the Great Dao tempering pool. He loved the feeling of quickly becoming stronger. At the same time, he wanted to complete the mission as soon as possible. Reach the Dao Ancestor Realm within 1,000 years. In this way, he would be able to obtain the wish-fulfilling sword. His goal was the wishing gold treasure basket. In this way, the number of his divine swords would double in the future, which was equivalent to his strength increasing exponentially. Just thinking about it made him happy. In a good mood, He quickly returned to the Longbow Divine Ranges clan. After returning to the courtyard, Zhou Xuanji saw that only Yu Zhongxiu was there. She sat in the stone pavilion, dignified and beautiful, like a painting. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "Why are you here? Where are they?" Yu Zhongxiu had a complicated look in her eyes as she said faintly, "They are all cultivating in the Dao Tower." Looking at Zhou Xuanji, she felt very complicated. The current Zhou Xuanji was no longer someone she could climb up to. She regretted it. If she knew this would happen, she would have taken the initiative to capture the man in front of her. In the future, she might never have the chance to see him again. Thinking of this, Yu Zhongxiu's heart turned sour. "Lady Yu, why are you waiting for me here?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He could sense this woman's feelings, but he wasn't interested. It was so easy for him to get a woman. His relationship and experience with Yu Zhongxiu couldn't move him. "The evil Sky Divine Range wants to take you away. Are you willing?" Yu Zhongxiu asked. Old Ancestor Longbow was too ashamed to come, so he sent her. Even if Zhou Xuanji was in a bad mood, he wouldn't vent on a woman. Zhou Xuanji calmly nodded and asked, "When do we depart?" "Anytime." Just when Yu Zhongxiu was about to answer, Ji Huanglin walked into the courtyard. Zhou Xuanji turned to look at him and asked curiously, "Did you ask Be Sovereign to take me in?" He had a good impression of Ji Huanglin. This person was open and aboveboard. He would not bully the weak and had the demeanor of a powerful cultivator. Ji Huanglin shook his head and said, "Your talent is desired by all divine ranges. However, ever since your aptitude of 18 star was announced, more divine ranges came. The Longbow Divine Range is probably regretting their decision. If they had a few more days, they might have gotten double the benefits." Speaking of this, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Yu Zhongxiu felt very awkward and didn't interrupt. The Longbow Divine Range was a lower middle tier divine range after all. Facing a super genius, they could only give way. "Then let's depart after my people come back," Zhou Xuanji muttered. He had heard about the evil Sky Divine Range long ago. Although the name had the word evil in it, the evil Sky Divine Range had a very positive reputation. No matter who they fought, the evil Sky Divine Range was extremely domineering and never plotted. Especially Be Sovereign, who was famous in the Kunlun Origin Court. His power was extremely terrifying. Yu Zhongxiu said, "I will send someone to inform them. After all, some of them don't know about your latest situation. They might be in closed-door cultivation for decades, or even longer." Since she couldn't make Zhou Xuanji stay, she could only try to leave a good impression on him before he left. What if they could meet again in the future? Chapter 701. "Thank you, Miss Yu." Zhou Xuanji looked at Yu Zhongxiu and said slowly, "It was Miss Yu who bought us from the black market. It's hard to predict fate, but if you have any difficulties in the future, you can come and find me." Although he had been bought by Yu Zhongxiu, he had never suffered any hardship. His treatment was vastly different from that of the slaves in the Longbow Divine Range. Yu Zhongxiu's emotions surged as she listened to his words, and all the words she wanted to say turned into a heavy nod. She quickly left to gather Xian Xianghua and the others for Zhou Xuanji. Ji Huanglin looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "You are a Void Boundary War God, right? There's a mission after this. Let's do it together. This is a great opportunity. I'll do my best to protect you." "What serendipity?" Zhou Xuanji asked. In his eyes, apart from the great Dao tempering pool, there was nothing else that could be considered a fortuitous opportunity. It's a divine fruit that only bears fruit once every billion years. We need to snatch it. I'll tell you the specifics when the time comes. The rewards for this mission are also very great. One of them is the time spent in the great Dao tempering pool. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji's interest was immediately piqued. He wasn't worried that Ji Huanglin would harm him. If that was the case, there was no need for Ji Huanglin to personally come to the Longbow Divine Range. Moreover, this mission wouldn't start immediately. The two began chatting in the courtyard. Ji Huanglin was very curious about Zhou Xuanji's experience, while Zhou Xuanji was curious about the evil Sky Divine Range. The two told each other everything they knew and chatted happily. On that day, Xian Xianghua, the old beggar, Qiu Hu, and the others all returned. Sheng Tiandao said excitedly, 18-star aptitude, evil sky divine range. I really admire you to the point of prostrating myself before you. He rejoiced that he could cozy up to Zhou Xuanji before he left the heavenly law universe. It was the same for the others, especially the old beggar. After knowing that Zhou Xuanji had 18-star talent, he became very worried. All along, he felt that he was the one who discovered Zhou Xuanji. But after hearing this news, he felt a great headache. He rode on Zhou Xuanji's coattails. No wonder that guy was so desperate for this kid. The old beggar sighed in his heart, while Gu Tianxia and Su Qing admired Zhou Xuanji. They had all tested their talents, but compared to Zhou Xuanji, they were not even worth mentioning. When a person surpassed their own attitude, they couldn't even feel envious. The gap between them was just too big. Xian Xianghua didn't say anything, but her eyes were filled with admiration. Once, she protected Zhou Xuanji. Now, she looked up at Zhou Xuanji. The change in status and the widening of the gap didn't disappoint her. Instead, she enjoyed it. Which woman doesn't want to have a man she can rely on? No matter how determined a man was, he would occasionally want to have a warm family. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "Everyone, pack up and prepare to depart." Everyone nodded and returned to their rooms. On that day, Zhou Xuanji and the others left under the warm send-off of the Longbow Divine Range. Old Ancestor Longbow also shamelessly came to see them off. Tears streamed down his face as if he had lost his beloved. Half-truths and half-lies. His heart really ached. He was really embarrassed. After leaving the Longbow Divine Range, Ji Huanglin took out a small golden boat. It quickly expanded into a giant ship for them to land on. Rumble. The golden wheel suddenly tore through the universe and disappeared into the distance. It passed through the divine ranges as though it had teleported. On the massive ship, Zhou Xuanji and the others did not feel any discomfort. The old beggar exclaimed, "This divine ship requires at least 100 million merit points, and it can withstand the attack of a Dao ancestor." The others were speechless. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. "Should I buy such a divine ship too? If I offend a Dao ancestor in the future, I can still run away." He had 7 billion merit points. He could totally squander it. Ji Huanglin turned around and said with a smile, "With Zhou Xuanji's talent, he can choose any divine ship like this in the Evil Sky Divine Range. Not only that, but there are also divine clothes and countless treasures. There are only things that you can't imagine." 18-star aptitude was extremely rare even in the Kunlun Origin Court. After Beast Sovereign knew about it, he was overjoyed. His unhappiness with the Longbow Divine Range disappeared instantly. He felt as though he had picked up a great bargain. He was extremely excited. He had already formulated a training plan for Zhou Xuanji. He wanted to train Zhou Xuanji personally. Even in the Evil Sky Divine Range, there was only one 18-star genius. That genius had lived for countless years and had become one of the leaders of the Evil Sky Divine Range. The golden ship was extremely fast. After about an hour, they arrived at the Evil Sky Divine Range. The Evil Sky Divine Range was hundreds of times bigger than the Longbow Divine Range. They couldn't even see the top. After flying into the Evil Sky Divine Range, they saw a magnificent world. The golden divine ship rose up without slowing down at all. Soon, they came to the top and landed on a wasteland. "Wait here. I will take him to the range master first," Ji Huanglin said before leaving with Zhou Xuanji. After saying this, Ji Huanglin left with Zhou Xuanji and turned into a ray of golden light, disappearing into the horizon. Zhou Xuanji couldn't see anything because of his Dao energy. After a while, the golden light dissipated and Zhou Xuanji landed on the ground. This was a brightly lit palace. The ceilings seemed to be inlaid with a bright sun. The temperature was very high. Creatures below the Saint Realm might not be able to bear it. Beast Sovereign was sitting on a crystal throne. After seeing Zhou Xuanji, he revealed a sinister smile. "Ji Huanglin, get down," Beast Sovereign said slowly. Beast Sovereign said slowly. Hearing this, Ji Huanglin immediately disappeared. Zhou Xuanji walked up to him and cupped his fists. Thank you for your kindness, Beast Sovereign. Since he had come to the evil sky divine range, Zhou Xuanji had to correct his attitude. He couldn't turn in a long out yin and tell Beast Sovereign what to do. If that happened, even if he had a 28-star aptitude, he would still die. This sovereign appreciates you very much. In the future, your ID card will be stamped with this sovereign's mark. If you encounter danger, take out your ID card. In addition, this sovereign will send someone to take you to choose your resources, Beast Sovereign said with a smile, staring at Zhou Xuanji. The more he looked at Zhou Xuanji, the more satisfied he was. The more he looked at Zhou Xuanji, the more satisfied he was. This kid was devilishly talented. His behavior was also very good. He was neither servile nor overbearing. He understood etiquette. Such a genius could go further. Before Beast Sovereign's rise, he was also like this. Only when he was strong enough could he do whatever he wanted. Thank you, Zhou Xuanji thanked him again. At the same time, he was looking forward to what kind of resources he would get. Beast Sovereign continued. Your exterminating divine eyes have a very powerful origin. This sovereign can find one of the 5 ultimate gods to teach you. Zhou Xuanji suddenly thought of Barbaric Ultimate God and asked, Can you save Barbaric Ultimate God? I am indebted to him for teaching me. With Beast Sovereign's ability, this shouldn't be difficult. Barbaric Ultimate God? It's a piece of cake. He will be your subordinate in the future. With your aptitude, he doesn't deserve to be your senior. Beast Sovereign shook his head with a smile. Beast Sovereign shook his head and smiled. He did not put Barbaric Ultimate God in his eyes at all. He paused for a moment before continuing. Cultivate well. The evil sky divine range will do its best to nurture you. But you have to repay the evil sky divine range. Your first goal is to surpass and defeat Ingzhuge. Chapter 702. Ingzhuge. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. He couldn't help but ask, is the evil sky divine range related to his divine range? In the superstar competition, Ingzhuge left the deepest impression on him. How long would it take for him to catch up with such a powerful genius? The most important thing was that while he was cultivating, Ingzhuge was also cultivating. Ingzhuge was a 17-star genius and a super divine range. His cultivation speed was absolutely terrifying. Yes, the evil sky divine range and the emperor divine range are mortal enemies. Every time there is a great elimination, the two sides will fight to the death. Now that you have joined the evil sky divine range, they will also target you in the future. So this sovereign needs you to suppress Ingzhuge and rub the emperor divine range's spirit. Beast Sovereign nodded. Beast Sovereign nodded. When he mentioned the emperor divine veins, his expression turned a little cold. Zhou Xuanji could only say, I will try my best. Since he had joined the evil sky divine range, he should serve the evil sky divine range. Beast Sovereign flipped his right palm as a fist-sized red flower with green petals flew out and quickly arrived before Zhou Xuanji. This is an 80-million-year-old Bodhi flower. After taking it, it can strengthen your physique. Your cultivation has been growing very fast recently, making your body a little weak, Beast Sovereign explained. After Zhou Xuanji took the Bodhi flower, Beast Sovereign waved his right hand and sent him out before he could even thank him. Ji Huanglin was waiting outside the door. Seeing Zhou Xuanji fly out, he said, Let's go. I will take you to register your identity and collect the treasures and the blessed place. Zhou Xuanji nodded and put the Bodhi flower into the supreme storage. He swept his gaze around. This place looked very desolate. Thunderclouds were billowing. There were no weeds growing on the ground. The soil was a little moist. It was like a place where ghosts gathered. Under Ji Huanglin's lead, they came to a stone gate. Ji Huanglin swiped his ID card, and the stone gate immediately burst out with a colorful glow. They stepped through the stone gate and came to a bustling city in the blink of an eye. They were standing on a high platform that was 3,000 zhang above the ground. Buildings and pagodas stood in great numbers like mountains. Countless creatures were flying here and there. There were also many strange mounts and flying magical treasures. Heaven-shaking noises came from all directions. Zhou Xuanji could feel that the spiritual qi here was extremely majestic. It could even be compared to the space where the superstar sacred steel was located. As for the longbow divine range, it couldn't be compared to this city. As far as the eye could see, the appearance of the giant city was incomparably magnificent and shocking. Ji Huanglin flew in a certain direction, and Zhou Xuanji followed closely behind. Along the way, the creatures that passed by first bowed to Ji Huanglin before looking at Zhou Xuanji. All of the creatures' first reaction was to be stunned. SSS, Zhou Xuanji. He's Zhou Xuanji. A man suddenly cried out in alarm. His voice was extremely loud, and it sounded like he had obtained an opportunity. Shua. Countless gazes locked on a Zhou Xuanji from all directions. After the superstar competition, who could forget Zhou Xuanji's face? It's really him. Di Zun is mighty. He really managed to rope in this 18-star prodigy. Damn it. He made me penniless, but I still can't hate him. With Ji Huanglin leading the way personally, it seems that Sovereign Emperor wants to focus on nurturing Zhou Xuanji. Nonsense. 18-star aptitude. If it were you, wouldn't you nurture him? All sorts of discussions entered Zhou Xuanji's ears, but he was very calm and his expression did not change. He had experienced such scenes many times. Although it was not as impressive as this, he was already used to it. However, the evil sky divine range was indeed more enthusiastic than he had imagined. Half an hour later, Ji Huanglin brought Zhou Xuanji to a silver-white palace levitating in the air. There were many creatures walking along the corridors of the palace, and all of them were existences that Zhou Xuanji could not see through. They first came to a side hall. There were many wooden cabinets in the hall, and each of them was a flying artifact. They looked like models, and even the biggest one was not as tall as Zhou Xuanji. You can pick any artifact here. All of them are flying artifacts that can be controlled with spirit stones. You don't have to use your Tao energy to control them, Ji Huanglin introduced. Ji Huanglin introduced, and Zhou Xuanji nodded. He immediately wandered around the hall. Since he was going to choose, he would choose the highest and most expensive one. Each artifact had a wooden plate in front of it with a price tag. The lowest one needed 50 million merit points, which made him sigh in amazement in his heart. The gap between divine ranges was really huge. Soon, he came to a phoenix carriage. The carriage looked like it was made of gold. It was resplendent and noble. It was pulled by 3 fire phoenixes, and 2 fire cheelants were beside it. They were flapping their wings and galloping on the spot like living spirits. The price was 3 billion merit points. This was much more expensive than Ji Huanglin's golden wheel. This is the Tri-Phoenix Cheelan carriage. These 5 gods all have the cultivation of 9 vast heavens. As your cultivation grows, they will continue to grow stronger. This is the only one in the entire evil sky divine range, and it has just been built. You came at the right time. If it were someone else, no matter how many merit points they had, they would not be able to buy it. Ji Huanglin walked up to Zhou Xuanji and introduced it to him. There was a trace of envy in his tone. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and said, "Then I want it." Ji Huanglin nodded before waving at a middle-aged man not far away. As expected, everyone here knew Zhou Xuanji. B Sovereign had already ordered that no matter what Zhou Xuanji chose, they would give it to him directly. Of course, he could only choose one treasure of any type. And so, Zhou Xuanji obtained the Tri-Phoenix Cheelan carriage and sealed it in a scroll. Ji Huanglin told him that it would be best to let the Tri-Phoenix Cheelan carriage recognize him as its owner after breaking through to Tao Ancestor. Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but feel a little disappointed after hearing this. Such an eye-catching treasure had to be hidden for a while longer. However, once the Tri-Phoenix Cheelan carriage recognized him as its owner, it would be equivalent to having 5 pets with the cultivation of 9 vast heavens. Just thinking about it made him excited. Next was the selection of the Grotto Heavens and Blessed Lands. They were also selected in a palace. Each Grotto Heavens and Blessed Land were marked with their grades and prices. There was also a general introduction. With a sweep of his divine sense, he could look down at the grotto heavens and blessed lands. In the end, Zhou Xuanji chose a grotto heavens and blessed land called Pure Sword Heaven. It was an extremely vast and independent world. The spiritual qi there was also top-notch in the evil sky divine range. Ji Huanglin, who was leading the way, suddenly felt tormented. This kid's appetite is really big. He didn't keep a low profile at all. He chose the best. After that, Zhou Xuanji chose a divine robe worth 1 billion merit points. It was called the Purple Sky Stardust Robe. It could automatically adjust to the size of one's body. It contained restrictions that could resist fatal attacks, avoid the damage of space-time electric currents, and even transcend tribulations. It had many functions. After Zhou Xuanji put it on, his entire temperament suddenly changed. Coupled with his purple eyes, he looked like a divine lord. He was majestic, handsome, domineering, and confident. When he stood next to Ji Huanglin, people could feel that his aura wasn't weak at all. It was even slightly stronger. Ji Huanglin didn't have such an expensive divine robe. Even if he had so many merit points, he was reluctant to squander them. Clothes make the man. As soon as Zhou Xuanji came to the evil sky divine range, he became rich instantly. He was in a great mood. Chapter 703. After getting the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage, Pure Sword Heaven, and the Purple Sky Stardust Robe, Zhou Xuanji was very satisfied. However, the surprise was not over yet. Ji Huanglin took him to continue picking boots, crowns, servants, and so on. Beast Sovereign was completely considerate of him in all aspects. He had never imagined such treatment before. He was only protected in the Longbow Divine Range and received a few merit points. Looking at the Evil Sky Divine Range, they were very generous, showing the bearing of a super divine range. Zhou Xuanji's identity medallion was also transformed into the identity medallion of the Evil Sky Divine Range. The identity medallions of different divine ranges were different to indicate their identity. If they were the same, there would definitely be a fight. After half a day, Zhou Xuanji returned to the golden ship with a rich harvest. Next, they were going to Pure Sword Heaven. Master, how was it? What did they give you? Xiaohu asked curiously with a face full of expectation. The more generous Zhou Xuanji's treatment was, the more comfortable they would be. The old beggar nodded and said, "You can see how much the Evil Sky Divine Range values you now." Before Zhou Xuanji could speak, Ji Huanglin shook his head and said, "Don't ask, you will know soon." His tone was filled with helplessness. These guys didn't seem to know what 18 star aptitude meant. Any divine range would vigorously cultivate them and even have the opportunity to sit on the position of range master. Beast Sovereign used to have 18 star aptitude. He was recruited by the Evil Sky Divine Range and took over the Evil Sky Divine Range after becoming powerful. He was now looking for an inheritor. Divine ranges were like this. The position of range master wasn't the best. After a long time, one would get bored and want to rest. How many things did a divine range need to consult the range master? No matter how great one's ambition was, it would be worn down by time. Especially for super divine ranges like them. They had a solid foundation. There wouldn't be too much trouble, and it would be difficult to shake other super divine ranges. Next, the golden ship set sail for Pure Sword Heaven. Everyone was very curious about their next destination. Xian Xianghua couldn't help but ask Zhou Xuanji telepathically. Zhou Xuanji didn't hide anything from her. He told her everything he had obtained, which made her eyes widen. Putting aside Pure Sword Heaven, the treasures Zhou Xuanji obtained added up to more than 5 billion merit points. After all, she had been in the Longbow Divine Range before. She knew how huge this number was. It seemed that the Evil Sky Divine Range really regarded Zhou Xuanji as a treasure. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they came to a vast ocean, and Ji Huanglin asked Zhou Xuanji to take out the Pure Sword Heaven token. Pour your Tao power into it, and shoot it forward to create an entrance to the barrier. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji did as he was told. Soon, a hole that was dozens of feet wide appeared in front of him. looking like a whirlpool. The golden divine ship sailed into it, and they arrived at a vast and majestic world. The blue sky and blue sea stretched as far as the eye could see, and the spiritual energy was extremely abundant. There were many creatures here, but none of them had developed intelligence. They were like animals in the mortal world. The golden divine ship continued forward, bringing them around pure sword heaven. This world will belong to Zhou Xuanji from now on. This is definitely the most top-notch grotto heaven in the evil sky divine range. You can only enter with Zhou Xuanji's permission. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. You guys who follow him are really blessed. Ji Huanglin introduced with a smile. Even his blessed lands were not as high-grade as Zhou Xuanji's. Although he was envious, he was not jealous. He had always had the dream of becoming the lord of the evil sky divine range. Zhou Xuanji was of the same generation as him. Zhou Xuanji might become his right-hand man in the future. He did not want Zhou Xuanji to grow too slowly. Qiu Hu, Sheng Tiandao, the old beggar, Sima Yin, Su Qing, barbarian god Huang Luo, and the others were all dumbfounded. Such dense spiritual qi and such a huge world all belonged to Zhou Xuanji alone. Those who were brought by Xian Xianghua from the demon realm were trembling with excitement. Their realm lord's man was so favored. Their status would surely rise as well. After wandering around for a while, Ji Huanglin moved them out and said to Zhou Xuanji, "Those servants will come in a few days. At the same time, they will assign you a maidservant in charge. You can look for her if you need anything. You can trust her completely. This maidservant has been cursed. If she dares to disobey the master or the evil sky divine range, she will be destroyed by the heavens." After that, Ji Huanglin left quickly on the golden divine ship. Xian Xianghua looked at Zhou Xuanji and said meaningfully, "Lang Jun, it seems like you are blessed to have a maidservant to serve you." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at her and didn't bother to reply. Next, they began to choose a place to stay. Zhou Xuanji naturally wanted the most precious place, and so everyone dispersed. Zhou Xuanji and Xian Xianghua came to the highest peak. The spiritual qi here was the densest. The entire mountain was planted with all kinds of treasures. "Are you going to move Emperor's Sword Court next?" Xian Xianghua asked. Although pure sword heaven was huge, it would be consumed sooner or later if a force was allowed to take root. It was also easy for disputes to arise. The evil sky divine range gave him pure sword heaven because they hoped that he could cultivate in peace and not waste time on other things. Zhou Xuanji said, "They can't withstand such spiritual qi. They need to have at least connecting heaven level 10 cultivation to be qualified to come here. Moreover, developing here is not a good thing. If Beast Sovereign hears about it, what will he think?" There were countless forces under the divine range, but most of them were scattered at the bottom of the divine range, at the edge, or in the Kunlun universe. In terms of the number of living creatures, the divine range was strictly controlled to prevent enemies from sneaking in or to make the divine range lose balance. Xian Xianghua nodded. Zhou Xuanji immediately sat down and began cultivating. Xian Xianghua, on the other hand, built a building nearby. The old beggar, Qiu Hu, and the others also found their own places to settle down. They were far away from each other, not wanting to disturb each other. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. A group of creatures exuding powerful auras flew over from the horizon and arrived above the mountain where Zhou Xuanji and Xian Xianghua lived. The leader was a woman in red. She had a beautiful face and a graceful figure. Her temperament seemed a little cold. She was dressed very nobly. The creatures behind her were divided into 2 groups of men and women. There were 3,000 of them each, and all of them looked expectant. They were naturally curious about Zhou Xuanji, who had been in the limelight recently. This slave, Chang Xian, has brought 6,000 slaves to greet the Lord, the woman in red said with cupped fists. The woman in red cupped her fists and said respectfully. Zhou Xuanji's voice came, "Come here." Upon hearing this, Chang Xian immediately came over to Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji, who was sitting on a boulder cultivating, looked at her and asked, "What's your cultivation?" Chang Xian, kneeling in the air, replied, "3 vast heavens cultivation. Those slaves are in the saint realm. They are responsible for taking care of pure sword heaven." 3 vast heavens. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. Such an expert is his maid? 9 vast heavens was just a general term for a realm. It was divided into first vast heavens, second vast heavens, 3 vast heavens, and so on. The strongest was 9 vast heavens. Chapter 704. While Zhou Xuanji was observing Chang Xian was also secretly observing Zhou Xuanji. She had also watched the superstar competition. Zhou Xuanji had left a deep impression on her. When she knew that she was going to be Zhou Xuanji's maidservant in charge of matters, she was pleasantly surprised. A woman like her would eventually be attached to a prodigy of the evil sky divine range. None of the maidservants had ever left the divine range. They had never even been to the origin city. They had always been gathered together to cultivate and learn all kinds of knowledge. At the same time, they had to maintain their purity so that their future master wouldn't dislike them. It was Chang Xian's first time going out, so she was very nervous. She could only pretend to be calm and indifferent. Xian Xianghua appeared not far away and looked at Chang Xian. Chang Xian understood that she was Zhou Xuanji's woman, so she respectfully saluted. "In the future, I'll leave the trivial matters of pure sword heaven to you. My subordinates are also in pure sword heaven. You can go and get to know them to avoid future misunderstandings. Take the servants to make arrangements. Don't disturb me unless I have instructions." Zhou Xuanji nodded. He was very satisfied with Chang Xian. At least this woman was pleasing to the eye. Understood. Chang Xian immediately left and arranged for 6,000 slaves to settle down. Zhou Xuanji did not think too much and closed his eyes to cultivate. After everything settled down, he prepared to go into seclusion to cultivate. Xian Xianghua shook her head and smiled. She also found a place to cultivate. The news that Zhou Xuanji had entered the evil sky divine range spread like wildfire in the divine range. The resources that he had obtained were even hotly discussed by countless creatures. Dizun really put in a lot of effort. As the range master, it was impossible for Sovereign to use all the resources of the entire divine range. After all, there were many old immortals behind the scenes. Each of them had their own power and resources. Zhou Xuanji's divine range access was so rich. Naturally, it was Sovereign who paid for it. No matter what, Zhou Xuanji was the most famous person in the evil sky divine range. Everyone knew about him. The news spread further and further, and it even spread to the other divine ranges and origin cities, becoming the topic of conversation for countless living beings. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed quickly. Ji Huanglin came to visit again. He was carrying a cage with barbaric ultimate god inside. It was curled up like a docile black cat, looking very cute. Seeing barbaric ultimate god, Zhou Xuanji wanted to laugh. He said, "Don't pretend to be asleep. Isn't it better to escape with your life?" Having heard this, barbaric ultimate god opened his eyes awkwardly, but he still did not dare to look into Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Although it placed its hopes on Zhou Xuanji to escape, it did not want to become his subordinate. When it heard this news, it was as if it had been struck by lightning. First, it was ecstatic, then it collapsed. It couldn't believe that Zhou Xuanji had so much power to make Beast Sovereign speak in person. Later, it learned from the powerful cultivator who escorted it that Zhou Xuanji had won the first place in the superstar competition 3 times and was tested to have 18-star aptitude. 18-star. It almost wanted to curse the heavens. On what basis did this kid attain 18-star aptitude? It had been a torturous journey for it. It was too painful. Hurry up and call me master. Ji Huanglin snorted coldly, which made Zhou Xuanji want to laugh. Barbaric ultimate god seemed to have suffered a lot. He said weakly, "Master." Zhou Xuanji nodded and said to Ji Huanglin, "Many thanks." In just half a year, the barbaric ultimate god had been sent to him. Beast Sovereign was really powerful. After all, the barbaric ultimate god had a special identity and was suppressed in the Great Elimination. How many connections did he have to go through? It's a piece of cake. Let's start the master recognition and seal it, lest this guy offends his superior. Ji Huanglin took out a white talisman with red characters and handed it to Zhou Xuanji. Barbaric Ultimate God heaved a heavy sigh. It was extremely uncomfortable. It felt even more uncomfortable when it remembered that it had dug out Zhou Xuanji's heart. In the future, it would definitely have a dark time under Zhou Xuanji's control. Under Ji Huanglin's guidance, Zhou Xuanji integrated the white talisman into his body and established some kind of connection with the barbaric ultimate god. He felt that he could make the barbaric ultimate god suffer a fate worse than death with just a thought. He could even kill it directly. This feeling was too good. He couldn't help but smile when he recalled how arrogant the barbaric ultimate god was. Seeing his smile, barbaric ultimate god felt ashamed. After that, Zhou Xuanji and Ji Huanglin exchanged some pleasantries before Ji Huanglin left. Zhou Xuanji introduced the barbaric ultimate god to Xian Xianghua and Chang Xian. He also told the barbaric ultimate god not to hurt any creature here. The barbaric ultimate god had been cursed. How could it dare to court death? If it hadn't dug out its heart, it would have dared to be mischievous. But now, it could only admit defeat. Chang Xian was very surprised after learning the identity of the barbaric ultimate god. After all, she was born and raised in the Kunlun origin court. Naturally, she had heard of the myths and legends of the 5 ultimate gods. She didn't expect that such a person was still alive and had become Zhou Xuanji's slave. She was excited about this. Bee Sovereign was really going to support Zhou Xuanji. She would be Zhou Xuanji's woman for the rest of her life. The stronger Zhou Xuanji was, the better she could live. At this point, the barbaric ultimate god joined the pure sword heaven. Zhou Xuanji would ask it for the Great Leap Divine Suppressor technique when he wasn't cultivating. In order to please Zhou Xuanji, barbaric ultimate god also did its best. 20 years passed. During this time, Zhou Xuanji broke through to the 3rd level of the Great Leap Divine Suppressor technique. The number of Great Li avatars had reached 2,370. This was all thanks to the barbaric ultimate god's dedicated cultivation. The barbaric ultimate god was also very surprised. The current Zhou Xuanji was like a completely different person. His cultivation talent was really terrifying. Not only him, but Zhou Xuanji also noticed it. When he was cultivating in the past, his cultivation speed was not this fast. At first, he thought it was because of the pure sword heaven, but later he realized that it was not the case. His aptitude had indeed increased. He suspected that it had something to do with the Great Tao tempering pool. Otherwise, why would he have such a sudden change? Other than that, he couldn't think of any other possibilities. He was very close to becoming a late-stage Tao-treading saint. No wonder the cultivation of those geniuses was so terrifying. The spiritual qi and Tao power of the super divine range were really abnormal. Ever since he came to pure sword heaven, he felt that he was close to becoming a Tao ancestor. Xian Xianghua, Qiu Hu, and the others were also cultivating diligently. They did not leave pure sword heaven. On this day, Zhou Xuanji was awakened by the mark on the ID medallion. He opened his eyes and took out the medallion. Brother Zhou, our Xian Mao's next mission is about to begin. Are you free? Yi Jun's voice came from the identity token. Although he was laughing, his laughter was a little uneasy and not as carefree as it used to be. The current Zhou Xuanji was enough to make him revere him. Zhou Xuanji replied, "Anytime. Give me a time." After cultivating for so long, he needed to test his strength. It was not a good thing to keep cultivating blindly. Very well, then I will confirm it in a month. Go early and come back early. Don't worry, the rewards of this mission will not disappoint you, Yi Jun said excitedly. Zhou Xuanji nodded in response, and the conversation ended. Zhou Xuanji took back his ID medallion with a look of anticipation. After cultivating for 20 years, it was time to show off. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 705. 1 month later, Zhou Xuanji left pure sword heaven and headed for the origin city near the evil sky divine range alone. No one stopped him, but he could feel several divine senses scanning him. Although the Kunlun origin court was safe, Beast Sovereign was still worried that something would happen to him. Even if he was worried, Beast Sovereign would not stop him. Even the strongest prodigy had to go through the baptism of battle. After coming to an unfamiliar origin city, Zhou Xuanji asked around and found out where the vocation palace was. His appearance caused a commotion in Fengyuan City. All the living beings in this origin city came from the nearby great divine ranges. They were powerful, but they were still very excited and curious to see Zhou Xuanji. This year's superstar competition had made Zhou Xuanji successful. Later, it was revealed that he had 18-star aptitude, which meant that he had more potential than Ingzhuge. Zhou Xuanji evaded along the way and finally came to the vocation palace. He found the side hall of the Void Boundary War God and teleported to the Void Boundary Hall. He wasn't on the first floor, but on the 98th floor. He went straight up. Different origin cities had different teleportation locations. Generally speaking, the stronger the origin city, the higher the teleportation array in the Void Boundary Palace. Soon, he arrived in front of the tower where Emperor Zhen was. Nangong Jiayin, Yi Jun, Su Huang, and the others had been waiting for a long time. Seeing him walk over, Xian Mao's Dao Lords came up to congratulate Zhou Xuanji. Now, Zhou Xuanji was already above them. When they heard that Zhou Xuanji had obtained a massive amount of resources from the evil sky divine range, although they were envious, they didn't dare to have any ill intentions. If they dared to plot against Zhou Xuanji, the evil sky divine range would surely kill them at all costs. This was also the reason why the evil sky divine range spread the news of Zhou Xuanji's treatment. They wanted to tell the Kunlun Origin Court how much they cared about Zhou Xuanji. All right, enough with the pleasantries. You'll have plenty of opportunities later. Come here, I'll explain the details of this mission. This mission involves a divine range, so I can't let you go rashly. Emperor Zhen said, drawing everyone to him. This task is to capture a Dao-treading venerable. Although his strength is not strong, he used to be from the Emperor Divine Range. The Emperor Divine Range has never put him on the wanted list. The Void Boundary Palace suspects that the Emperor Divine Range wants to protect that guy. After all, that guy has the soul of an ancient giant demon in his body. Heavenly Sage Zhen Yin talked endlessly, making Zhou Xuanji raise his brow. The Emperor's divine veins? He suddenly felt that there was something fishy about this matter. Could it be that this was arranged by Beast Sovereign? Otherwise, it wouldn't be so coincidental that he didn't encounter any questioning from the evil sky divine range along the way. It seemed like they wanted to test how he would react when facing the Emperor's divine range. After all, the evil sky divine range and the Emperor divine range were mortal enemies. The target's name was Xiehuoli. He had a special bloodline and a 17-star aptitude. However, he could easily lose control. After Heavenly Venerable Zhen Yin handed over the task, Xian Mao left through the space-time tunnel. Brother Zhou, this divine robe of yours is not simple, right? Yi Jun said in amazement as he looked at Zhou Xuanji's purple sky stardust robe. His tone was filled with envy. It was the same for the others. Zhou Xuanji shook his head with a smile and said, "It's a gift from the divine range. I can't afford the clothes you are wearing." A Dao ancestor asked about the price of the purple sky stardust robe out of curiosity. After hearing Zhou Xuanji's answer, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed like the rumors were true. Zhou Xuanji received resources worth more than 5 billion merit points on the first day he joined the evil sky divine range. Nangong Jiayin said with a smile, "Brother Zhou, you've soared to the sky this time. Don't turn against us in the future." The others teased him as well. Unknowingly, their attitudes were lower than before. "I only treat people based on feelings, not identity," Zhou Xuanji said, shaking his head. He had a good impression of Xian Mao. At least, they had never had any conflicts. They were united during missions and were highly efficient. The group chatted as they headed toward the universe where Xiaohui was. That universe was a high-level universe, but the previous overlord was destroyed by a divine range. Now, the universe was in chaos. Xiaohui thought that he could hide there to avoid the disaster, but it was a pity that he underestimated the Void Boundary Palace's intelligence capabilities. Even without spies, the Void Boundary Palace could divine it. It was extremely horrifying. There was no danger along the way. 3 days later, they came to the target universe. Su Huang, bring the 6 of them to gather intelligence. We will wait here, Yi Jun instructed. Having heard him, Su Huang and the other 6 Dao ancestors nodded, and they left quickly. This mission involved the Emperor Divine Range, so they had to be careful. Zhou Xuanji immediately sat down in the void and began cultivating. Seeing how diligent he was, the others looked at each other in dismay. All sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. The more talented a prodigy was, the more they would risk their lives to cultivate. Nangong Jiayin asked Yi Jun, "There is news that Zhuge may come. If we meet him, we must escape, especially Zhou Xuanji. We must save him even if we risk being imprisoned." Yi Jun nodded. The other Dao fathers had no objections either. If they were captured, they still had a chance to live. But if Zhou Xuanji was captured, the evil sky divine range would surely not let them off. Super divine ranges were all very domineering. Zhou Xuanji heard their conversation, but did not open his eyes. This was the reality. Even if he pretended to refuse, it was useless. Xian Mao wasn't giving him face. He was just afraid of the evil sky divine range. In the blink of an eye, 7 days later, Su Huang and the others came back one after another. 2 of them were still injured. There were many native powerhouses in this universe, and the strongest among them could reach the 9 vast heavens realm. There are indeed traces of the Emperor's divine pulse. Xiaohui's information has been blocked, so we can't get any information. However, there is good news. Aside from us, there are other teams of Void Boundary War Gods who came here for a mission. Maybe we can join forces with them. Su Huang said with a solemn expression, which made Yi Jun frown. The mission target was only one person. If they joined forces with other teams, they would have to fight in the end. But fighting with Void Boundary War Gods was better than offending the Emperor's divine range. Yi Jun looked at Zhou Xuanji thoughtfully. Maybe he could use Zhou Xuanji to intimidate the other Void Boundary War Gods. Sure, after we complete the mission, if there are other teams competing with us, we will use Zhou Xuanji to repel them, Yi Jun said. After that, he looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "Brother Zhou, do you mind?" Zhou Xuanji replied without opening his eyes, "I don't mind. With such a powerful backer, how could he not make use of it? Moreover, the more powerful he was, the more prestigious the evil sky divine range would be." This was not Wanshan Great Thousand. The evil sky divine range's status was much higher than the divine cliffs. Even the top-ranked super divine ranges would find it difficult to destroy the evil sky divine range. The group heard him and became excited. They began to discuss the plan. A while later, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes suddenly. His purple pupils looked extremely evil. "Someone is coming," he said with a deep voice. His exterminating divine eyes were extremely perceptive, so he discovered the situation before Yi Jun and the others. Having heard him, the group immediately took out their enchanted artifacts and prepared for battle. A stream of rainbow light came from the depths of the universe. Its aura was so powerful that it shook the space. Chapter 706. The newcomer was a muscular man wearing a black cloak with dragon scales. He had a dragon head and a human body. Sharp claws grew out of his sleeves like razor-sharp daggers. He looked at Xian Mao and the others and stopped less than 100 meters away from them. "Zhou Xuanji, I didn't expect you to come too. Aren't you afraid that the Emperor Divine Range will attack you?" The dragon-headed man asked with a cold smile as he locked his eyes on Zhou Xuanji. Yi Jun asked with a deep voice, "Who are you? Tell me your name." "You can call me Dao Guardian Dragon. I'm here to ask for your help to expel the Emperor Divine Range." The dragon-headed man replied as he looked at everyone. He frowned slightly, but soon relaxed. "Dao Guardian Dragon, Yi Jun and the others' expressions changed. Su Huang asked with squinted eyes, Tao Guardian Dragons are distributed in every high-level universe. Zhou Xuanji was curious. What was the origin of the Tao Guardian Dragon? That's right. We are determined to protect the peace of the universe. The Emperor Divine Range is shameless to act in the dark. That's why we asked the evil Sky Divine Range for help. Because of this, you received this mission. I'm here to receive you, the Tao Guardian Dragon said. Most of the time, he was looking at Zhou Xuanji. Apparently, the evil Sky Divine Range had instructed him. Zhou Xuanji could sense the kindness in his eyes. The evil Sky Divine Range's arrangement? No wonder we can receive such high-level missions. Yi Jun frowned and mumbled to himself. The other Tao ancestors' expressions changed too. They immediately understood that they were being used. They looked at Zhou Xuanji instinctively. Zhou Xuanji could only shake his head and shrug. He really did not know. It was the evil Sky Divine Range's arrangement indeed. What a schemer. Not only did they give him the opportunity to train, but they also had all sorts of methods to ensure his survival. All right, come with me. The Tao Guardian Dragon waved his hand and flew in another direction. Xian Mao and the others could only follow. Along the way, the Tao Guardian Dragon introduced the Emperor Divine Range's situation in this universe. Until now, the Emperor Divine Range had become more and more rampant. They had begun to travel the universe openly in search of Xie. It was not a big deal for a divine range to conquer a universe in the Kunlun Origin Court, but there were always some divine ranges that advocated peace. They worked together to protect the universe, and the Tao Guardian Dragon was one of them. No matter where it was, justice would always have the upper hand in public opinion. This was especially so for high-class cosmoses. The god ranges wouldn't dare to attack them easily. Strange. Since Xie is from the Emperor's divine range, why is he hiding? A Tao ancestor asked curiously, afraid that there was a trap. The Tao Guardian Dragon answered, it should have something to do with personal hatred. It seems like Xie family was killed by the geniuses of the Emperor Divine Range. That is why he awakened. Such things were not uncommon in the divine ranges. Only geniuses like Zhou Xuanji, who were heavily nurtured by the divine range, and no one dared to offend them, could they cultivate without any worries. The Tao Guardian Dragon received information about Xie and was saved by a race. If he wanted to capture Xie, he had to first gain the trust of that race. This was suspected of deception, but there was no other way. Only by handing over Xie would the universe be at peace, and the Emperor's divine range would leave. Zhou Xuanji did not feel much about this. He did not speak and followed the group silently. 2 days later, they descended upon a great world and saw a group of strange creatures with deer heads and human bodies. They all looked rather old. The Tao Guardian Dragon was in charge of communication. Zhou Xuanji could not understand what they were saying, so he waited in boredom. After some negotiation, the Tao Guardian Dragon and Yi Jun left with them. Zhou Xuanji and the others stayed behind to wait for their return. Everyone, stay alert. A battle might break out at any time. Su Huang reminded them as he looked around vigilantly. The scenery of this great world was beautiful and picturesque, but at this moment, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Tao Guardian Dragon said that the people of the Emperor Divine Range might be hiding in every corner. Half a day later, Yi Jun and the Tao Guardian Dragon flew over with a pale-faced young man in ragged clothes. It was Xie. He looked mentally exhausted as though he had been tortured. The mission is so easy? Nangong Jian asked with a raised brow. She felt that something was not right. The previous mission seemed easy, but Daohu Chiozun appeared, which almost scared them to death. Yi Jun shook his head and said, the next part is the most difficult. Once this brat leaves this great world, the Emperor Divine Range will come after him. Zhou Xuanji sized up Xie. This brat's eyes were lifeless, as though his heart had already died. He was curious what kind of soul this brat was hiding for 2 super divine ranges to fight over. Let's leave as soon as possible. The Tao Guardian Dragon muttered and looked toward Zhou Xuanji again. Although he was worried about Zhou Xuanji's safety, he was not frustrated. Instead, he looked forward to it. He had seen Zhou Xuanji's performance in the superstar competition and felt that this brat had many tricks up his sleeves. He might bring them unusual hope. Su Huang took out a jade disc and said, "Everyone, come up." Shortly after, he stored everyone into the jade disc and merged with it. They turned into a stream of green light and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. In the jade disc, the Tao Guardian Dragon continued to tell them about the powerful cultivators of the Emperor Divine range. The group listened attentively. Zhou Xuanji was most concerned about Zhuge. Zhuge was probably sent here to deal with him. Zhou Xuanji was no match for Zhuge now, but if they were to fight, he would not back down. Boom! The jade disc suddenly shook violently, startling everyone. TSK, where are you going? A mocking laughter came from the outside. Su Huang immediately cast a spell to stabilize the jade disc. Yi Jun and the others took out their enchanted artifacts and cast their divine abilities. Their Tao energy penetrated the jade disc and swept outward. Xiaohui mumbled, "Fate. We can't escape from the past after all." No one paid any attention to him. Everyone was tense. Zhou Xuanji was also prepared for battle. Once he activated the sword fusion technique and the nine-soul fusion technique, his power would increase tremendously. Together with the Great Li Avatar, he had a high chance of escaping. Boom! 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 The jade disc shook violently as though it would crack at any moment. The Tao Guardian Dragon gritted his teeth and said, "This is bad. I sense the aura of the fourth vast heaven. It might be Zhuge." His cultivation was only at the first vast heaven, so he was no match for Zhuge. Yi Jun and the others became even more anxious. They were only Tao ancestors, so it was impossible for them to defeat Zhuge. Even if they worked together, they would not be able to defeat Zhuge with just one hand. "You escape with him." Yi Jun suddenly looked at Zhou Xuanji and cried out with a deep voice. Next, he took out a rosewood door. After he opened the door, it was pitch black inside. Zhou Xuanji did not hesitate and entered the door with Xiaohui. The Tao Guardian Dragon heaved a sigh of relief and gave a strange smile. Nangong Jiayin dashed into the rosewood door suddenly, which shocked Yi Jun. Chapter 707. Carrying Xiaohui, Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin shuttled through the dark void. "Looks like this is a conspiracy." Nangong Jiayin sighed, her expression quite unsightly. Zhou Xuanji looked at her and asked, "Why do you say that?" Nangong Jiayin sighed and said, "The Tao Guardian Dragon meant that the evil sky divine range sent you here to gain experience. But now, Yi Jun directly told you to run away, and the Tao Guardian Dragon didn't even stop you. What do you think?" Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji felt that it was reasonable. Had the Tao Guardian Dragon been bribed? No, the look in his eyes earlier shouldn't be able to fool anyone. Or had Yi Jun been bribed? That wasn't right either. Yi Jun had no reason to harm him. Even if he was bribed by other super divine ranges, he wouldn't dare to do so. The evil sky divine range was so powerful that Yi Jun dared to provoke it. Zhou Xuanji frowned. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. It's not the Emperor's divine range. It's old demon soul mover. He's already controlling the people of the Emperor's divine range. Even your companions are being subconsciously controlled. Xiaohui spoke suddenly. With this, Zhou Xuanji shuddered. The terror of old demon soul mover was still fresh in his mind. In the superstar competition, if it weren't for Origin Court War God, these geniuses would have died. Old demon soul mover's aura was too terrifying. Nangong Jiayin was also frightened. She knew more about the terrifying legends of old demon soul mover. She shuddered at the thought of old demon soul mover. For some reason, they felt as if a pair of eyes were spying on them. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. No, if it really is old demon soul mover, we won't be able to escape through the space-time tunnel. Nangong Jiayin gritted her teeth, her eyes full of fear. Zhou Xuanji frowned and thought about how to escape. At this moment, a giant hand flew over from the darkness in front of them and grabbed the three of them. Zhou Xuanji's vision darkened. He felt that his body was being squeezed, as though he would be crushed at any moment. Old Demon Soul Mover. Zhou Xuanji gritted his teeth and immediately used the 9 Soul Fusion Technique and Sword Fusion Technique. He wanted to resist, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not break free. It's over. There was a loud bang. He felt the explosion of the giant hand, which almost killed him. Then he fell to the ground. When he opened his eyes, he found that he had landed on a barren land with Nangong Jiayin and Xie Huli lying next to him. The two of them did not die, but they were injured to varying degrees. They crawled up one after another. This is Nangong Jiayin's beautiful eyes widened and her body began to tremble. Zhou Xuanji's expression changed as well. This was because they had landed on a huge palm. At the end of the horizon, there were 4 fingers that seemed to reach the sky. He subconsciously looked to the side, and there was indeed a thumb. Zhou Xuanji immediately turned around and saw Old Demon Soulmover's horrifying face. That pair of eyes were numb and cold, enough to scare everyone to death. Nangong Jiayin and Xie Huli hurriedly retreated in fear. They didn't dare to make a sound. Old Demon Soulmover didn't say anything either. He just looked at them quietly. This was a dark void, which made the environment even more eerie. Zhou Xuanji could sense Old Demon Soulmover staring at him. It was like a child looking at an ant under his feet, curious but not complicated. However, for ants, this kind of gaze was extremely terrifying. Even if they were to be trampled to death, it would only be because of the other party's naivety and pure curiosity. After a long while, Old Demon Soulmover didn't say a word and just looked at Zhou Xuanji coldly. Zhou Xuanji couldn't stand it anymore. What do you want? Just say it. Zhou Xuanji said with a deep voice. It was not that he was courting death, but it was too torturous. Live or die. Just give me a straightforward answer. Xie Huli looked at him with a strange expression. Is this brat tired of living? Oh no. The geniuses of the super divine ranges were all like this. Arrogant and stupid. Nangong Jiayin was extremely nervous. She didn't dare to move or even breathe loudly. She kept sending telepathic messages to Zhou Xuanji, asking him to shut up. Zhou Xuanji ignored her and looked at Old Demon Soulmover fearlessly. Old Demon Soulmover said suddenly, "There's something in your body. It's very mysterious. I can't see through it, and at the same time, it makes me feel very dangerous." Zhou Xuanji heard him and frowned. What is it? He couldn't help but think of the supreme legendary sword system. Other than the serendipity of the world's beginning, what else could make Old Demon Soulmover so fearful? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. Brat, how about you be my pet? Or else I will eat them. Old Demon Soulmover looked down at Zhou Xuanji and said word by word. The word eat made Nangong Jiayin and Xie Huli shudder. What's the end of being your pet? Zhou Xuanji asked. He was waiting. As long as Beast Sovereign sensed that something was wrong with him, he would surely come to save him. Although Old Demon Soulmover was powerful, Beast Sovereign might not be afraid of him. It depends on your performance. I need you to be my pet to fight against the pets of other old demons. As long as you can win, I will let you live. Otherwise, I will extract your soul and make you wish you were dead. Old Demon Soulmover said in a cold voice. Old Demon Soulmover said coldly. His expression didn't change at all when he said this. It was because his expression didn't change that he looked extremely terrifying. Zhou Xuanji fell into silence. He didn't know what to say. Suddenly, a giant mountain rose behind Old Demon Soulmover. Countless creatures and souls were still buried there, struggling silently. Okay, Zhou Xuanji said calmly. He had no other choice. He could feel Old Demon Soulmover's murderous aura. It was like a stormy sea, soul-stirring. Old Demon Soulmover grinned and flew forward. Zhou Xuanji looked back at Nangong Jiayin and asked, "Are you okay?" As for Xie Huli, he didn't care. What should we do? Didn't the evil sky divine range leave you a way to contact him? Nangong Jiayin asked telepathically. She didn't want Zhou Xuanji to die here. Becoming Old Demon Soulmover's pet was absolutely miserable. Zhou Xuanji shook his head. If there was a way, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Xiaohui sighed and said, "This is fate. I'm destined to be unlucky. You want to capture me, so you deserve to be stained with karma." Nangong Jian walked up to Zhou Xuanji and looked at old demon soul mover. She gritted her teeth and said, "Senior, what do you want to let us go? If you want that brat, we can give him to you." Old demon soul mover ignored her, which made her even more anxious. She didn't believe old demon soul mover's nonsense. Zhou Xuanji would definitely die in his hands, followed by her. Zhou Xuanji said, "Forget it. If we anger him, we will die now." Nangong Jian's face was filled with despair. "Humph! You old demon, you think you can touch the genius of the evil sky divine range?" A cold snort came. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. Just when he was about to speak, a mysterious force teleported the three of them away. In the next second, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and saw Bee Sovereign standing in front of him with his back facing him. Nangong Jian was stunned. She instinctively wanted to pull Zhou Xuanji back. "Thank you, Bee Sovereign, for helping us." Zhou Xuanji cupped his fist and bowed. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Fortunately, he had a powerful backer. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 708. Who is he? Nangong Jian asked softly. Bee Sovereign's spirit was really strong, which made her feel more confident. Zhou Xuanji must have thanked him because of the evil sky divine range. The master of the evil sky divine range, Bee Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji replied. Upon hearing this, Nangong Jian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. How could this be? Such a big shot came in person. She instinctively looked at Zhou Xuanji. How terrifyingly talented was this brat? The evil sky divine range's range lord treated him so well that the range lord had to follow and protect him secretly even when he was out on a mission. She had never heard of such a thing before and only felt that it was absurd. Of course, she was even more surprised. With Bee Sovereign's help, they were saved. Bee Sovereign, who is this kid to you? Old demon soul mover stared at Bee Sovereign and asked in a deep voice. His hoarse voice made people shudder. Bee Sovereign smiled evilly and said, "What do you think?" As soon as he finished speaking, 2 golden spears appeared beside him. They were hundreds of meters long, and gusts of strong wind surrounded them, shaking the space. You want to capture this sovereign's person as a battle pet? Old demon soul mover, if you don't lose a layer of skin today, don't even think of leaving. Bee Sovereign said in a domineering manner. 2 golden light spears suddenly shot out, creating a deafening sonic boom. In an instant, golden light shone ahead, illuminating the entire dark void. The light engulfed old demon soul mover's incomparably huge body. Roar! Old demon soul mover's roar resounded, shaking Zhou Xuanji and the others so much that they felt dizzy. Soon after, they were enveloped by a warm energy, and all the discomfort instantly disappeared. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and found himself surrounded by a golden radiance. Nangong Jian and Xiaohui stood beside him. It seemed that this place should be inside the Tao energy of Bee Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji let out a sigh of relief and took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword. He stabbed it into his abdomen and started to heal himself. Nangong Jian and Xiaohui looked at him strangely. Are you possessed? Nangong Jian asked with a frown. Bee Sovereign has already been sold. Can old demon soul mover still bewitch Zhou Xuanji's mind? Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes and said, I'm healing myself. Was there such a healing method? Nangong Jian was curious, but didn't ask any more questions. Xiaohui looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated expression. Why does Zhou Xuanji have the protection of a super expert like Bee Sovereign? About an hour later, the golden light around them suddenly disappeared, and the 3 of them appeared in a starry sky. Zhou Xuanji, your mission is still ongoing. This sovereign will only help you get rid of enemies that you cannot defeat. You will still need to compete with those in the same generation as you. Bee Sovereign's voice echoed in the universe. Only his voice could be heard, but he was nowhere to be seen. Nangong Jiayin sighed. Let's go. Beast Sovereign saving this time, but what about next time? She understood that in the eyes of Beast Sovereign, there was only Zhou Xuanji. For her, this mission was still a perilous one. As the three of them continued forward, Xiaohui once again returned to his half-dead state. His eyes were lifeless. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin moved forward at full speed, vigilant of their surroundings. Between Beast Sovereign and Old Demon Soul Mover, who do you think is stronger? What happened to Old Demon Soul Mover? Nangong Jiayin couldn't help but ask. The fear brought to her by Old Demon Soul Mover was too great, but the moment Beast Sovereign appeared, he immediately resolved the crisis, making her sigh at her own insignificance. For many creatures, Tao ancestors were high and mighty, but for some existences, they were really insignificant. Zhou Xuanji replied, Beast Sovereign must be stronger, but not by much. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken so long, and he wouldn't have left in such a hurry. He is probably injured. In the distance, the corner of Beast Sovereign's mouth twitched as he traveled through the space-time tunnel. Can't this kid leave me some face? As Zhou Xuanji had guessed, he was indeed injured. However, Old Demon Soulmover's situation was even worse. Beast Sovereign shook his head with a smile and quickly flew toward the Kunlun Origin Court. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji's trio was also flying toward the Kunlun Origin Court. However, their strength was limited. Very soon, they were lost in the layers of universes, unable to find the way forward. Although the Kunlun Origin Court was above all universes, one couldn't reach the Kunlun Origin Court just by flying up. The rules of the universe were different. Some universes were in different directions, and some were even rotating. After 12 hours, Yi Jun suddenly contacted Nangong Jiayin and asked where they were. Nangong Jiayin also didn't know where she was, but she told him about their situation. Yi Jun sighed. We're in big trouble. We probably won't be able to escape. If you guys can't complete the mission, then forget it. Staying alive is more important. When Nangong Jiayin heard this, her heart sank to the bottom. Could it be that the other members of Xian Mao were trapped? That's all I have to say. We will try our best to escape. This mission is cancelled. Life and death are up to fate. Do your best to escape. Yi Jun's voice was filled with desolation. With that, he cut off the connection between the identity tokens. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin fell into silence. So far, they hadn't seen anyone from the Emperor Divine range. How could they remain calm when the mission was suspended? Is the Emperor Divine range with Old Demon Soul Mover? Zhou Xuanji asked Xiaohui. After all, it was impossible for Old Demon Soul Mover to pass by this place. It was too much of a coincidence. There must be another reason. Xiaohui shook his head and sighed. The Emperor Divine range isn't any weaker than your Evil Sky Divine range. How much do you know about the Evil Sky Divine range? The waters of the Super God ranges are too deep. The Super God ranges might have mortal enemies, but there might also be people secretly colluding with each other. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Could there be people from the Emperor Divine range in the Evil Sky Divine range? That's right. They are mortal enemies after all. For safety, they must have sent spies to lurk among the enemy forces. Zhou Xuanji didn't speak, but continued to think. He suspected that Beast Sovereign was using him as a chess piece. It wasn't just for him to gain experience. As a super genius of the Evil Sky Divine range, once he went out, he would surely attract the attention of the Emperor Divine range. Zhou Xuanji felt that this might be the reason. The three continued to move forward at full speed. After Yi Jun's communication, Nangong Jiayin became even more nervous. She kept her mouth shut. Although she was looking ahead, Zhou Xuanji could sense that her divine sense was sweeping around. They didn't stop after passing through space-time tunnels. Xiaohui had actually fallen asleep while being carried. It looked like he was already used to hiding and being chased. In the blink of an eye, 4 days passed. They came to a barren universe. Broken soil, stones, and some dried corpses were floating everywhere. Apparently, there was a massacre here before. It wasn't the first time Zhou Xuanji saw such a scene, so he didn't feel any discomfort. However, ever since he entered this universe, he felt that something bad was going to happen. Nangong Jiayin had the same feeling. Even her flying speed slowed down. Finally, you are here, Zhou Xuanji. A familiar voice came from the front. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin immediately stopped. They looked over and saw Ing Zhuge standing on a slanted, floating mountain in the distance, calmly looking at them. Chapter 709. Zhou Xuanji looked at Ing Zhuge from afar. He wasn't moved at all. After all, before coming here, he had learned that Ing Zhuge was also participating in this mission. There was no need to guess that Ing Zhuge's mission was to suppress him. What do you want? Nangong Jiayin asked in a deep voice. She knew Ing Zhuge, who had the strongest performance in this superstar competition. She and Zhou Xuanji's strength couldn't be compared to Ing Zhuge at all. The difference was too great. Without the help of others, they were no match for Ing Zhuge. You can leave. I only want to find him, said Ing Zhuge calmly. From the beginning to the end, his eyes were locked on Zhou Xuanji. At the end of the superstar competition, he even told Zhou Xuanji that he was looking forward to this kid's growth. Zhou Xuanji flew toward him without any fear. Take him and hide to the side first, Zhou Xuanji said without looking back. Nangong Jiayin wanted to dissuade him, but the words fell on the tip of her tongue. Ing Zhuge had already blocked them, so there was no way for them to escape. Zhou Xuanji directly used the sword fusion technique and nine soul fusion technique, and he took out the almighty divine snake sword with his right hand. This sword required the cultivation of a mid-stage, Dao-treading venerable, which was just right. The almighty divine snake sword of controlling Daos was huge, and it seemed to have been transformed from Python. Its entire body was pitch black, and it had a metallic feel to it. The tip of the sword was forked, and it looked like a snake's mouth. Ing Zhuge glanced at his sword and quickly retracted his gaze. It was Zhou Xuanji's first time using a profound Dao-grade legendary sword. Ancient gazing, disaster releasing, universe essence, overturning heaven, connecting heaven, nine extremities, primordial chaos, profound Dao, venerated marquee, vast sky, myriad life fusion, court overturning. The almighty divine snake, sword of controlling Dao, could devour the great Dao. But he didn't know if it could devour the Dao energy of the nine vast heavens. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji's aura had already surpassed that of a Dao-treading saint. Nangong Jiayin's beautiful eyes widened in shock. This kid, Dao-treading venerable, could have such an aura? Nangong Jiayin felt that Zhou Xuanji was not much weaker than her. No wonder you were tested to have 18 star aptitude. Fight me. I will fight you with the same level of cultivation, Ing Zhuge said as he stared at Zhou Xuanji. He then immediately stepped into the air towards Zhou Xuanji. Boom! His aura erupted as well, and it was extremely powerful. Zhou Xuanji took the lead and clashed with Ing Zhuge. A layer of blue light appeared like an armor, blocking the almighty Dao-controlling divine snake sword. In an instant, the myriad sky divine snake sword began to absorb Ing Zhuge's Dao power. Ing Zhuge raised his brow. He didn't panic. The silver armor suddenly exploded, blasting Zhou Xuanji away. Zhou Xuanji used the primordial chaos sword shadow. Billions of sword shadows flew toward Ing Zhuge from different directions, leaving him nowhere to escape. The universe space fluctuated, stirring up waves of cold space-time winds. 81 sword souls condensed behind him. With him as the center, the tips of the swords pointed outwards, like the sword sex a mortal ghost weep. This was the sword light shield art, and he used it as a sword soul. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his purple eyes flickered with a cold light. The aura of a sword emperor was fully displayed. Ing Zhuge stepped forward. The great desolation, sword shadows couldn't touch him at all. They were all offset by his Dao force, as if they were nothing. Very good. Zhou Xuanji, you did not disappoint me indeed. Ing Zhuge smiled proudly. Even when facing Chu Machin, he had never said such words. He was very excited. Although there was still an insurmountable gap between him and Zhou Xuanji, he had already recognized Zhou Xuanji's aptitude. If this kid was in the same realm as him, what kind of strength would he show? Zhou Xuanji didn't answer. He rushed up to Ing Zhuge as the thunderclap sword appeared in his left hand. The two swords were like the wind as he launched a violent attack on Ing Zhuge. However, Ing Zhuge didn't even raise his hand. He easily blocked all of his attacks. Zhou Xuanji could block his two swords with just his Dao force. Although this guy didn't use the mighty power of 9 vast heavens, the strength of his Dao force and the quality of his physical body were there. It wasn't easy for him to hurt Ing Zhuge. Even so, he had to do his best. If he lost, Ing Zhuge would probably take him back to the Emperor Divine range. After that, he wouldn't be greeted with friendly treatment. Zhou Xuanji used all kinds of Sword Dao divine abilities. They were ever-changing. Ing Zhuge waved his palm. This palm contained infinite fortune. Facing this palm, Zhou Xuanji only felt that colorful illusions of heaven and earth flash before his eyes. Immediately after, he was blasted away, vomiting blood. He gritted his teeth. He felt that his body was about to explode. Damn it, Zhou Xuanji was furious. His face turned cold. The angrier he was, the calmer he became. He tried to calm his mind. In such a state, his aura faintly grew stronger. His divine abilities were boundless and boundless, blasting the universe to the point of collapsing and creating spatial cracks. Ing Zhuge began to exert his strength. He waved his hand as if he was painting with an invisible pen. He pointed at the mountains and rivers, squandering his Dao energy. Layers of illusions of heaven and earth appeared behind him. It was the 9 vast heavens law idol. He stared at Zhou Xuanji with blazing eyes, as if he was looking at his prey. Seeing that the distance between the two was getting closer and closer, Zhou Xuanji's aura was gradually suppressed. Even if the almighty divine snake sword of controlling Daos kept devouring Ing Zhuge's Dao energy, it didn't help. The gap between the two's Dao energy was too big. When could an ant drink the ocean? Nangong Jiayin was anxious, but she didn't know what to do. Xiaohui furrowed his brow. He didn't expect Zhou Xuanji to be so powerful. His cultivation had long reached the Dao ancestor realm. But later, he offended the Emperor Divine range, which caused his cultivation to be sealed. Even if he didn't have Dao energy, his vision was still there. As expected of an 18-star talent, Xiaohui sighed with a desolate expression. He could have enjoyed the same treatment as Zhou Xuanji, but his talent awakened too late. It was only after he caused such a disaster that the Emperor Divine range would not allow him to grow. They would only use him as a weapon. The more he thought about it, the sadder he felt. Fate was really unfair to him. Boom! Zhou Xuanji was once again sent flying. Just as he stabilized his body, Ing Zhuge suddenly raised his hand and said, "Enough! Let's stop here." Zhou Xuanji was stunned. He asked with a frown, "If you want to fight with your full strength, then do it." He thought that Ing Zhuge was tired of playing. "I don't want to kill you, nor do I want to capture you. I just want to see your strength. Also, I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't go any further." The corner of Ing Zhuge's mouth rose as he said calmly. With that, he turned around. Zhou Xuanji did not loosen his brows and continued to frown. "By the way, when you take on a mission in the future, take it personally. Don't trust the Void Boundary Palace too much, and don't trust the Evil Sky Divine range too much. Beast Sovereign is indeed powerful, but he hasn't reached the point where he can make decisions with a single word." Ing Zhuge left these words and quickly disappeared. The universe was still on the verge of collapse. Nangong Jiayin, carrying Xiaohui, flew to his side and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Zhou Xuanji shook his head and replied, "I'm fine. He told us not to go any further. Could it be that there is already an ambush at the border of the Kunlun Origin Court? I have countless legendary swords. I have countless legendary swords." Chapter 710. I'm not sure, but we'll be in danger no matter where we go. Nangong Jiayin sighed, looking at Zhou Xuanji with resentment in her eyes. Ever since they had met this brat, there had been a total of 2 missions, both of which were extremely difficult, and they had been hunted down twice. Her enemies were all existences that she could not defeat, which made her feel helpless and sad. Zhou Xuanji understood the look in her eyes and was speechless. He was also wondering if he was possessed by the star of misfortune, or did fate do something to him back then? No matter what, the most important thing now was to think of a way to escape. If he was dead, there was no point in pursuing this matter. He discussed it with Nangong Jiayin and decided to go in another direction. They couldn't hide here. They had to move quickly. Leave him behind. Zhou Xuanji looked at Xie Huoli and muttered, "Consider it as giving him a way out." Nangong Jiayin nodded. She had long wanted to abandon Xie Huoli, but since Zhou Xuanji didn't say anything, she was too embarrassed to do so. Xie Huoli's eyes widened as he said, "This place is barren. Can you throw it somewhere else?" Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin directly tore space and disappeared into the turbulence of time and space, leaving Xie Huoli in a state of confusion. These two bastards, Xie Huoli clenched his fists tightly. His expression was extremely gloomy. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin shuttled through the darkness. The light was getting weaker and weaker. Even their perception was weakening. What happened? Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. He felt that they were flying in the wrong direction. Nangong Jiayin moved closer to him, and their arms were touching. He subconsciously shrank back, only to hear her say, "There may be an absolutely dark area ahead. Our senses and divine thoughts will be shielded, and it's easy to get lost. We'd better stay close to each other." "Don't worry, you're too young. I don't fancy you." Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. He was provoked, but now was not the time to bicker. They could not separate, or else it would be dangerous. Zhou Xuanji needed Nangong Jiayin's strength and experience. If he were to rely on himself, he would probably get lost in the endless universe. The two of them continued forward. After a while, Zhou Xuanji put his arm around her shoulder. Even so, he felt that his hand was gradually losing consciousness. "How could this be? You've been here before?" Zhou Xuanji asked softly. It was his first time coming to such a place, and he felt lost and uneasy. He did not know where the future lay, nor did he know what was hidden around him. The feeling of his senses being blocked was incomparably terrifying. In absolute darkness, nothing could be seen. Even the people around him were disappearing. "I'm not sure. Looks like we're in trouble." Nangong Jiayin sighed, her tone much softer than usual. In this desperate situation, her willpower also began to fade. Zhou Xuanji wanted to reply, but he suddenly found that his throat seemed to be blocked, and he could not speak. At this moment, endless sleepiness surged into his mind, causing his eyelids to become extremely heavy. In the end, he sighed silently in his heart. His consciousness completely fell into chaos. After an unknown period of time, Zhou Xuanji felt the warm wind blowing against him. He slowly opened his eyes and saw 10 suns hanging high in the crimson sky. Wisps of flames floated past his eyes. He sat up with difficulty and shook his head. He suddenly caught a glimpse of Nangong Jiayin lying next to him. Her clothes were disheveled, and she was covered in scars. She looked very miserable. He looked down at his own body and found that he was also injured. He took out 2 holy light redemption swords and pierced one in his thigh and the other into Nangong Jiayin's abdomen. While healing himself, he observed his surroundings. They were lying in a desert with undulating sand dunes. There were only a few dead trees and no signs of living beings. "Where is this?" Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow as he stared at the 10 suns above. He always felt that this scene was familiar. A sweet snort came from his side. Nangong Jiayin had woken up. She didn't panic. She was very calm. She noticed that her clothes were not covering her body. She couldn't help but glare at Zhou Xuanji before taking out a robe and wrapping it around her body. "I'm not interested in your old body," Zhou Xuanji said in a hoarse voice. Zhou Xuanji said with a hoarse voice. He still remembered that Nangong Jiayin had dissed him before he passed out. Nangong Jiayin immediately became angry when she heard this. Her throat was also very dry. She replied in a hoarse voice, "Humph, if I am willing to condescend to marry you, won't you be moved?" Zhou Xuanji stared at her with a strange look in his eyes and asked, "You don't know my current identity?" The look in his eyes seemed to be saying, "Are you worthy?" After going through life and death together in the absolute darkness region, the relationship between the two had obviously improved. In the past, they would not bicker like this. Nangong Jane looked at him bitterly, and then looked at the holy light redemption sword that had pierced her abdomen. "How many swords have you copied with my golden treasure basket?" She snorted coldly and asked. Thinking of this, she became angry. Zhou Xuanji had consumed a lot of her fate all of a sudden. She even suspected that it was because of this that she became so unlucky. Hearing her mention this, Zhou Xuanji felt that he was in the wrong and could only shut up. The two of them began to focus on recuperating from their injuries. At the same time, they were on guard against any sneak attacks. An hour later, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and asked, "Do you know what this place is?" His throat had returned to normal, and his complexion was much better. "I'm not sure. Let's look around." Zhou Xuanji nodded in agreement. The two immediately sheathed their swords and stood up. They didn't split up and walked forward. They didn't encounter any other living beings along the way. After walking for 7 days, they still hadn't reached the end. Something's wrong. Is this a sealed world? Nangong Jiayin frowned and muttered to herself. She looked a little nervous. Zhou Xuanji asked, "What do you mean?" She replied, "It means that we may be trapped here forever and can't escape. Only you and I will be left. We can't even cultivate. Didn't you notice that there is no spiritual qi or great Tao rules here?" Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow. He didn't want to stay here. His family was in the Kunlun origin court. He had to go back. Thinking of this, he took out the almighty divine snake's sword of controlling Daos and threw it into the sky. The legendary sword soared into the sky, trying to pierce through the sky. However, the almighty divine snake sword of controlling Daos stopped after flying to a certain height and fell weightlessly. Zhou Xuanji's brow furrowed even tighter. He didn't believe it and followed suit. When he flew to a height of 90,000 feet, the Tao energy in his body disappeared into thin air. His body fell uncontrollably. "What's going on?" Zhou Xuanji's eyes widened. He couldn't understand this scene. He suddenly stared at the 10 suns. He finally remembered why he felt that this scene was familiar. It was the same for the suns of the solar system. There were 3-legged golden crows inside. However, there were no 3-legged golden crows in these 10 suns. Instead, there were 10 giant babies curled up, white and chubby. Chapter 711. Zhou Xuanji fell from the clouds. Nangong Jiayin quickly caught him. The two landed on the ground. A moment later, Zhou Xuanji's condition returned to normal. He pointed at the 10 suns and said, "Look at them." Nangong Jiayin looked up and asked, "What's wrong? Aren't they just 10 suns? What's so special about them? I guess it's an innate restriction." Zhou Xuanji frowned, looking at her, and asked, "You can't see what's in the suns?" Nangong Jiayin's cultivation was higher than his. It was impossible that she couldn't see it. "What's there? Is there something wrong with your eyes?" Nangong Jiayin said angrily. She was in a bad mood. The thought of staying here until she died made her very annoyed. Eyes. Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but reach out to touch his eyes. Could it be that only the exterminating divine eyes can see what's in the 10 suns? The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. So he told Nangong Jiayin what he saw. Nangong Jiayin frowned and said, "How is it possible? You can see it. Why can't I?" Zhou Xuanji was helpless. He could only tell her about the exterminating divine eyes. One of the 5 ultimate divine eyes. The exterminating divine eyes? Nangong Jiayin's eyes widened. She suddenly thought of something. Her hair stood on end, and she shuddered. Her body trembled as she murmured, "Could it be impossible? That's just a legend." Zhou Xuanji frowned again. Could it be that this woman thought of something? It was the first time he had seen Nangong Jiayin so scared. She was even more desperate than when she met old demon soul mover. Nangong Jiayin sat paralyzed on the hill as if she had lost her soul. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Zhou Xuanji couldn't stand it anymore and asked angrily. Nangong Jiayin was in a daze. She didn't say anything. Seeing this, Zhou Xuanji had no choice but to look at the 10 sons again. The 10 giant infants looked very peaceful. Their eyes were closed, and their bodies were slightly moving up and down with their breathing. Obviously, they were all alive. Zhou Xuanji felt very uneasy looking at them. He always felt that these 10 giant infants were extremely dangerous, especially with Nangong Jiayin's reaction. After a long while, Nangong Jiayin turned around and looked at Zhou Xuanji. She sighed and said, "Don't think about it. We are dead. They should be sovereign divine fetuses. We will be eaten by them sooner or later." Sovereign divine fetus? What was that? Zhou Xuanji looked confused. When the word sovereign was mentioned, he thought of the Kunlun origin court's sovereign. Could there be some kind of connection between the two? That's right, it's a child raised by a supreme being. The supreme being divine fetus is hidden in an independent plane and is not restricted by space and time. Legend has it that every supreme being will raise a supreme being divine fetus. If one accidentally falls into it, one will definitely become food for the supreme being divine fetus. Nangong Jiayin said worriedly. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Then who started this legend?" Nangong Jiayin glared at him and said, "Now is not the time to talk glibly. Supreme magical powers are invisible to the naked eye. Only the 5 ultimate divine eyes can distinguish them. That's why the 5 ultimate gods died one after another." Zhou Xuanji sat down and did not reply. "What are you thinking about?" Nangong Jiayin asked. This time, she had changed a lot, just like a woman. Zhou Xuanji replied, "Since I can't escape, then I'll just wait for death." He didn't really want to give up. He just wanted to calm down. Along the way, the things they encountered were getting more and more ridiculous. Anyway, there was no way to escape. It was better to rest. Seeing him so calm, Nangong Jiayin's heart calmed down. Even this kid isn't afraid. What's there to be afraid of? He is so calm. He must be very confident. However, 10 days later, Zhou Xuanji still didn't move. Nangong Jiayin bumped his shoulder and asked, "What are you thinking about? Why isn't this kid panicking?" "Waiting for death," Zhou Xuanji replied. He was indeed in despair. He couldn't even cultivate in this world. He couldn't feel Tao energy or spiritual qi at all. It was too lonely. If this continued, he would go crazy sooner or later. He would rather die in battle than die in such a useless way. Nangong Jiayin rolled her eyes and asked, "What's the state of the sovereign divine fetus now?" She couldn't see the sovereign divine fetus, so she was even more afraid. But she kept pretending to be calm. Under such circumstances, the calmer Zhou Xuanji was, the more secure she felt. "Still sleeping. I guess he will never wake up," Zhou Xuanji replied casually. With a perfunctory tone. He was really at his wit's end. Nangong Jiayin bit her lip as she looked at Zhou Xuanji faintly. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes, glanced at her, and asked, "What's wrong?" "Don't worry. If we die together," Nangong Jiayin sighed. "I don't want to die. I really don't want to die," Nangong Jiayin sighed and said in a very low voice. Who would want to die unless they were completely disheartened? Zhou Xuanji didn't want to either, but there was no other way. "If I'm strong enough," Nangong Jiayin grew sadder and sadder. Her eyes even turned red. Zhou Xuanji's eyes widened as he suddenly thought of something. Boom! He soared into the sky and flew toward the 10 suns again. "You!" Nangong Jiayin was startled. She got up and wanted to pull Zhou Xuanji back, but it was too late. Zhou Xuanji quickly rose like a sharp arrow, soaring into the sky. He was unstoppable. He didn't use Tao energy, but just his physical strength. An invisible force poured into his body, as if to press him down. He rushed toward a sun with all his might, but his speed was getting slower and slower. In the end, he plunged into a sun. As if he had broken through a thin film, a dense and scorching Tao energy flooded him from all directions. There was Tao energy in the sun. He finally understood why there was no Tao energy in this world. It turned out that it was absorbed by the 10 giant infants. All the Tao energy gathered around them, forming 10 giant suns. At the same time, they could also affect the Tao energy. After Zhou Xuanji figured this out, he felt that it might be possible to break through with his physical strength. He didn't expect to succeed. He floated in the Tao energy and looked at the giant infant. In front of the giant infant, he looked so small. With a thought, Zhou Xuanji began to use the soul division technique. He wanted to refine this giant infant into a clone. Apart from this, he couldn't think of any other way to escape. He could only rely on the giant infant to rush out. But just as he began to divide his soul, the giant infant in front of him suddenly opened its eyes. Its eyes were pure, but its brows were furrowed, looking angry. Zhou Xuanji was frightened. His body stiffened, not daring to move. Being stared at by the giant infant, he felt as if he was being stared at by old demon soul mover. It was too horrifying. Is it really the sovereign divine fetus? Zhou Xuanji thought in shock. If he dared to move, the giant infant would definitely make a move, because he had already seen the giant infant's eager hands. The scene froze. He was motionless, and so was the giant infant. They didn't even bat an eyelid. After a few dozen breaths, Zhou Xuanji slowly retreated. The giant infant leaned forward toward him, scaring him into stopping immediately. If the giant infant leaned down a little more, it could swallow him in one gulp. Chapter 712. Zhou Xuanji was covered in cold sweat and did not know what to do. Why did this guy suddenly wake up? What was he trying to do? Zhou Xuanji could not see through the giant infant's gaze, but he could sense fatal danger. If he wasn't careful, he could be swallowed by the giant nascent soul. Nangong Jiayin looked up at the sky from the sand dune. She saw Zhou Xuanji rushing into the sun and then remaining motionless. She felt strange and inexplicably got goosebumps. She couldn't see the giant baby. The unknown was the scariest. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji did not dare to move, she became even more afraid. She wanted to call out to Zhou Xuanji, but was afraid of disturbing the sovereign divine fetus. At this moment, suddenly, she saw Zhou Xuanji's legs kicking. He was holding something with his hands, as though something invisible was attacking him. Could it be that the supreme divine fetus wanted to eat him? She immediately rushed up, wanted to help Zhou Xuanji. However, when she flew to 90,000 feet, the Tao energy in her body disappeared, and she lost her balance and fell. By now, Zhou Xuanji was already in the massive infant's mouth. The massive infant chewed on him, and he was barely able to avoid being touched by its teeth. However, the massive infant was simply too powerful, and if this went on, he would be eaten sooner or later. Damn it! Who gave birth to this fellow? What a freaking freak! Zhou Xuanji gritted his teeth as he cursed. He immediately took out legendary swords and stabbed them into the giant infant's upper and lower body cavities, causing the giant infant to cry out in pain. No matter how much the giant baby cried, Nangong Jiayin couldn't hear it. Invisible and soundless, with the divine sword stuck in its mouth, the giant infant felt extremely uncomfortable. It struggled madly, and the rays of the sun became even brighter. Finally, the giant infant spat Zhou Xuanji out. His expression became savage, and he bared his fangs and claws at Zhou Xuanji. Evidently, he was completely enraged. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and suddenly withdrew his sword. He then cast the 9-soul fusion technique and sword fusion technique, breaking through the sun and rushing towards Nangong Jiayin below. The giant baby rushed out. The sun behind him was attached to his body, and he instantly turned into a flaming man. The other 9 suns erupted as well. Raging flames blazed, turning into 9 fire gods high up in the sky. Nangong Jiayin could finally see the outline of the supreme divine fetus, but she still didn't know its true appearance. Why did you provoke them? Nangong Jiayin asked, gritting her teeth as she supported Zhou Xuanji. She could not understand what Zhou Xuanji was thinking. If he had a countermeasure, he should have discussed it with her. I want to borrow their strength to escape, Zhou Xuanji said calmly. The scene just then made him feel a lingering fear, but he could not show it, or else it would be too embarrassing. The 10 supreme, being divine fetuses, were furious, floating high up in the sky. The raging flames on their bodies surged higher and higher, as if they were going to burn the sky apart. "What should we do now?" Nangong Jiayin asked. She took out a golden staff with a string of jade beads in its mouth in her right hand and smashed the bottom of the staff into the sand. The entire desert was filled with sand waves, forming a sandstorm tornado that surrounded them. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and said, "What else can we do? Of course it's a fight." He took out the almighty divine snake sword of controlling Taos. Under the effects of the sword fusion technique and the 9-soul fusion technique, his aura was still at its peak. He soared into the sky and quickly swung his sword towards the sky. Countless sword chis raged out. Ultimate Chaos Tao. This was the sword Tao theurgy he learned in the Superstar competition. The violent sword energy sealed the 10 supreme divine embryos from all directions, slicing them into countless pieces. However, when the sword chi dissipated, the 10 sovereign divine fetuses gathered together once again. The strange thing was that these supreme divine fetuses didn't come down. They just looked down at them from above, as if they were very afraid. "Wait, is there something underground?" Nangong Jiayin's face changed as she spoke in a trembling voice. The mysterious power that could make Tao energy disappear did not touch the ground. Could it be that there was something terrifying hidden underground? Zhou Xuanji also felt that something was amiss and scanned down with his divine will. Nothing. The bottom of the desert seemed to be bottomless, and his divine sense could not reach the end. For a time, the scene fell into a stalemate. The sovereign divine fetuses floated above, unwilling to leave. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin couldn't escape and could only stay where they were. It was as if the great Tao of space didn't exist here, and they couldn't escape through space. "What should we do now? Have you noticed that the temperature is rising? I'm afraid the origin of this sand is not simple," Nangong Jiayin said in a low voice as she glanced around. Looking closely, there was a lot of sand floating on the surface of the desert. The sand was trembling slightly, and the tremor was getting stronger and stronger. Zhou Xuanji's face darkened. If this continued, something bad would definitely happen. Will they burn to death, or will they be buried by the sand? The two fell into deep thought, trying to think of countermeasures. Inside a palace, Beast Sovereign was sitting on a high seat, cultivating. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. He furrowed his brow and murmured, "Sovereign divine fetuses. 10. Who the hell did this? Is it the current sovereign?" No, he hasn't reached the point of creating sovereign divine fetuses yet. He felt that something was wrong. He couldn't sit down anymore. So he got up and disappeared from the palace. In the blink of an eye, he came to the space-time channel and quickly shuttled back and forth. A figure stopped him in front of him. Surprisingly, it was Origin Court War God, still shrouded in golden light. Beast Sovereign stopped and asked in a deep voice, "War God, what's the matter?" Origin Court War God replied, "Sovereign, go back. You are not allowed to leave the Kunlun Origin Court during this time." His tone was very tough, not giving Beast Sovereign any face. Beast Sovereign narrowed his eyes and asked why. He wasn't afraid of Origin Court War God. While speaking, he flew toward Origin Court War God. Sovereign has ordered that in the next 1,000 years, no range master is allowed to leave the Kunlun Origin Court. If anyone dares to violate this, I will take action directly, Origin Court War God replied. Spears of light appeared behind him, sparkling with golden light. They looked very dazzling. Beast Sovereign couldn't help but frown when he heard this. Sovereign's order? Could it be because of the sovereign divine fetuses? These two things were too coincidental. He couldn't help but think so. "Can you tell me the specific reason?" asked Beast Sovereign. He had spent so much effort on Zhou Xuanji. He didn't want anything to happen to Zhou Xuanji. Origin Court War God was silent for a moment before replying, "That existence is about to return. The Kunlun Origin Court needs your strength and also to protect you." That existence. Beast Sovereign's brow furrowed even tighter. He fell into deep thought. Soon, his expression changed. He anxiously said, "Let me save someone. It won't take long. I will rush back in the shortest time possible." Origin Court War, God shook his head. He raised his right hand, motioning Beast Sovereign to go back. Beast Sovereign gritted his teeth and directly made a move. Countless demons flew out of his long sleeves, flooding toward Origin Court War God. While Origin Court War God was on guard, he directly tore the space with his hand and quickly slipped away. Origin Court War God chased after him even before the space crack closed. The two super powerful cultivators passed through layers of space, chasing each other. Be sovereign, I advise you not to mess around. Otherwise, don't blame me for not considering our past relationship. Origin Court War God said in a deep voice. His tone was filled with anger. Chapter 7:13. Be Sovereign ignored the threat of the Origin Court War God and continued to move forward at full speed. The Origin Court War God was furious. He immediately sped up and chased after him, the golden light on his body shining even brighter. He raised his hand and sent out a palm strike. Countless golden beams tore through space-time and electric currents as they shot towards Beast Sovereign. Beast Sovereign suddenly turned his head, his eyes sharp. He swept his right leg, and a strong wind swept across the group of golden beams. Then, his back smashed through the space-time wall, and his figure disappeared. The Origin Court War God pursued him relentlessly. In a mysterious desert, Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin were still looking up at the 10 sovereign divine fetuses. They didn't dare to lower their heads, fearing that the supreme divine fetuses would suddenly descend. The supreme divine fetuses were descending bit by bit. It was only a matter of time before they reached the ground. The most frightening thing was that more and more sand was floating in the air, and the whole world was filled with a dry and hot aura. Zhou Xuanji did not speak and continued to think of a solution. There was a breakthrough in any situation, it was just that he hadn't discovered it yet. For example, the Paragon Divine Fetus was afraid of the desert. There must be something in the desert. He grabbed a handful of sand in his hand and realized that the sand here was very heavy. Each grain of sand weighed 5,000 kilograms. It was truly strange. Nangong Jiayin was also thinking about this issue. Another 6 days passed. The 10 Paragon divine embryos were less than 10,000 feet away from the ground. This distance was extremely dangerous for them. Zhou Xuanji felt that he could not endure it anymore. He immediately activated the Great Li Divine Suppressor technique and created 2,000 Great Li avatars, each of whom held a sword and soared into the sky. It was as if more than 2,000 stars were rushing towards 10 suns. The scene was extremely spectacular. What kind of divine ability is this? Nangong Jiayin asked curiously. She felt that the strength of these clones wasn't much different from Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. Have you heard of the Greatly Divine Suppressor technique? Nangong Jiayin shook her head. There were so many powerful cultivation techniques in the Kunlun Origin Court. How could she have heard of them all? The Dali clones surrounded the 10 supreme divine fetuses, and a chaotic battle ensued. The sovereign divine fetuses were no longer as sluggish, and they began to dodge and counterattack. Explosions rang out one after another, and flames and silver light flashed incessantly. In the end, all the Dali clones were annihilated, and the supreme divine fetuses were not injured. 2 of them even burped, looking like they were full. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He was really helpless. But he didn't want to wait for death. At this moment, the sovereign divine fetuses started to descend. Zhou Xuanji immediately pulled Nangong Jiayin and fled. The 2 of them dove into the desert and dove deeper. They wrapped their bodies with their Tao energy to prevent themselves from being squeezed by the sand. But as they dived deeper and deeper, a sense of heaviness began to appear. At the same time, they could sense that the sovereign divine fetus had also sunk into the desert and was chasing after them. Why did they suddenly riot? Nangong Jiayin asked, gritting her teeth. If they were caught by the supreme being divine core, they would be eaten. That type of death was truly horrifying and tragic. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "If we keep going down, they will stop eventually. If we die here, then so be it. We have already tried our best." The supreme divine fetus was unfathomably powerful, so they could only run. He dived all the way down, not knowing how deep he had dived. Zhou Xuanji began to slow down. Their faces were flushed red, and the veins on their necks were bulging. They looked like they couldn't take it anymore. The supreme divine fetuses suddenly stopped chasing. Zhou Xuanji heaved a sigh of relief and stopped as well. At this time, a violent suction force came from below, directly pulling Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin down. Zhou Xuanji felt the world spinning, and his consciousness became dizzy. Soon, he felt himself falling into a small river and instantly sobered up. He quickly got up as the water on his body evaporated. He looked around and found himself in a forest. There was a waterfall on the mountain in front of him, flowing with blue water. Nangong Jiayin also stood up from the river. The river water soaked her clothes. She wiped her face and raised her eyes to look around. Her and Zhou Xuanji's eyes locked on a tombstone by the river. The two glanced at each other and immediately walked over. When they came to the tombstone, they saw a line of words. "I am not willing to be buried here. I imprisoned the sovereign son and controlled the fate of the origin court." Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin frowned at the same time. The sovereign divine fetuses were imprisoned here? Who is this person? What does it mean to control the fate of the origin court? Zhou Xuanji took a step forward, took out the thunderclap sword, and gently touched the tombstone. Immediately afterward, the mound behind the tombstone instantly turned into flying ash and dissipated into the air. A big hole appeared, revealing a sarcophagus inside. Its surface was covered with green moss. "Don't act rashly," Nangong Jiayin warned. She was afraid that Zhou Xuanji would directly open the sarcophagus. What if there was an even more terrifying existence hidden inside? Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Go around and see if there is a way to escape. I will study it. Remember, safety is the most important. If you encounter a place you can't see through, don't go deep. Just sweep it with your divine will." Nangong Jiayin nodded and immediately set off. Zhou Xuanji, on the other hand, wandered around the sarcophagus, trying to see if there were any mysteries hidden inside. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Nangong Jiayin came back with a worried look on her face. She said, "This is also a closed small world. It's less than 1,000,000 miles away. We can't get out at all. Apart from this sarcophagus, there is no other special place. There aren't even any restrictions." Zhou Xuanji nodded. In that case, it was this sarcophagus that sucked them here. He took out the inverted book sword. This sword could reverse karma and sever the fate between living beings. He slashed at the sarcophagus, wanting to test its effect. If he could sever the karma between the sarcophagus and a certain existence, there might be hope. Hua! The blade cut through the air, causing the space to fluctuate. A faint howling sound could be heard. The lid of the sarcophagus suddenly opened as a mummy appeared in front of them. It was wearing a rich and gorgeous golden robe. Its hands were clutching its abdomen. It had a peaceful face and a snake crown on its head. Nangong Jiayin asked nervously, "What are you doing?" Zhou Xuanji calmly replied, "Nothing. If we want to leave this place, we should rely on him." According to the words on the tombstone, he suppressed the sovereign divine fetus here. He should have a way to let us leave. While speaking, he created a greatly avatar and went to check the mummy. Nangong Jiayin was extremely nervous. She was afraid that this thing would come back to life. No matter how the greatly avatar searched, the mummy didn't move. This made Nangong Jiayin breathe a sigh of relief. Soon, the greatly avatar found a wooden sign and brought it to Zhou Xuanji. This wooden sign was only the size of a palm. It was engraved with the word "you." Zhou Xuanji poured his Tao energy into it, but the wooden sign still didn't react. He couldn't help but furrow his brow. This thing is just a decoration. Nangong Jiayin suddenly said in a trembling voice, startling Zhou Xuanji. He looked up and saw that the mummy actually stood up. Its eyes opened, revealing a pair of pale, pupilless eyes. Chapter 714. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin didn't make a sound. The two stared at the mummy cautiously, ready to take action at any time. However, the mummy did not move at all, and it silently looked at Zhou Xuanji. Its pale eyes could cause anyone to feel a chill. With a thought, Zhou Xuanji's greatly avatar appeared behind the mummy and hugged its body. The mummy did not struggle and remained standing in the sarcophagus. That scared me to death. It doesn't have any Tao energy in its body. It should be dead. Nangong Jiayin wiped the cold sweat from her forehead and sighed. Ever since she took on this mission, she had been trembling with fear. She regretted taking on this mission. He blamed himself for being too greedy. As for Xian Mao and the others, they didn't even know that they had been tricked. The more she thought about it, the more depressed she became. She pouted and looked like a little girl. Zhou Xuanji did not pay attention to her. He walked to the stone coffin and found that there was a dark hole where the mummy had been lying. There was a wooden sword inside, which was 20 centimeters wide. There was a small groove on the blade near the hilt. He immediately took out the wooden plate that the Dully clone had found and embedded it into the wooden sword. The wooden sword trembled violently, and a burst of flame burst out. In an instant, the mummy suddenly turned into green smoke and drilled into the wooden sword. A soul rose from the flames. It was a kind-looking old man. He was a little chubby, and his eyes were squinted into slits. He looked at Zhou Xuanji with a smile. "Who are you?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He looked calm and did not panic at all. The other party was just a soul, so there was no need to be afraid. "How did you get here?" The old man asked with a smile. He did not answer Zhou Xuanji's question directly. Zhou Xuanji told him about what had happened. Now that the old man was their only hope of survival, he could only tell them. After he finished speaking, the old man smiled and said, "So that's how it is. Then you're dead for sure." Zhou Xuanji frowned and dug the wooden token out from the wooden sword. What are you doing?" the old man exclaimed. Before he could finish his sentence, his soul disappeared. After that, Zhou Xuanji placed the wooden medallion back in, and the old man's soul appeared. He shouted in exasperation, "Boy, I am Heavenly Venerable Dada. How dare you be so rude?" Heavenly Lord Abominable? What kind of stupid name is that? Zhou Xuanji's expression was strange. There was something that he did not know if he should say. "Do you want to escape this place?" Heavenly Lord Dawood asked solemnly, his eyes flickering. Zhou Xuanji nodded and waited for him to continue. He hoped that it wouldn't be someone like the barbaric ultimate god, who needed him to tell jokes again. As long as you eat the supreme divine fetus, you will be able to escape. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin felt nauseous after hearing this. Although they hated the sovereign divine fetus, they didn't want to eat these guys. Just thinking about it gave me goosebumps. "Is there any other way?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He felt that Heavenly Lord Dada was teasing them. Emperor Wood smiled and said, "Of course there is, but the other method requires at least 16-star aptitude. Are you worthy?" His expression was arrogant, and his eyes were filled with disdain. Nangong Jiayin said, "He is 18-star aptitude." Heavenly Venerable Wood was stunned and said, "You are that amazing?" He looked at Zhou Xuanji closely and realized in sorrow that he did not have a physical body, and his soul was becoming weaker day by day. He could not see through Zhou Xuanji's talent at all. "I have his talent, and then what?" Zhou Xuanji calmly asked. He was neither arrogant nor rash. His calm demeanor made Heavenly Venerable Wood look at him in a different light. Heavenly Venerable Wood said with a smile, "Take me as your teacher, and I will teach you a supreme divine ability. I will let you integrate this independent plane, and you'll be able to leave." Zhou Xuanji immediately became excited when he heard this. He asked, "What divine ability?" If he could become stronger, he naturally wouldn't refuse. "Don't worry, become my disciple, and you will help me overthrow the origin cord in the future and return my soul," Heavenly Venerable Wood said with blazing eyes. His tone was a little excited. He had been suppressed here for countless years. and the seeds of hatred had always been planted in his heart. Overthrow the origin court. Nangong Jiayin was scared. She felt that this guy was crazy. How powerful was the origin court? It was absolutely invincible. How could it be overthrown? All the universes were created by the Kunlun origin court. Who could defy the Kunlun origin court? The previous sovereign and I were brothers. In the end, that guy betrayed me in order to become the sovereign. Originally, I was the one with the most hope to become the sovereign. Heavenly Venerable the Wood said, gnashing his teeth. His eyes were filled with anger. In order to atone for his sins, that guy didn't kill me. In the end, he even handed the sovereign divine fetus to me and asked me to take care of it. He bullied me because I was only a soul. How could I tolerate it? I suppressed the sovereign divine fetus, but that guy never came back. He sacrificed himself for the Kunlun origin court. I heard this from other creatures. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayin could come here. Naturally, there were precedents. In that case, why did you destroy the origin court? Just because you couldn't find your enemy? Zhou Xuanji asked. He always felt that there was a secret hidden in this. The sovereign position could be fought for. What exactly could one fight for to become a sovereign? Heavenly Venerable Dawood replied, yes, in the final analysis, it's the position of the sovereign. He and I grew up together. We had no parents. We experienced life and death together. In the end, the more he spoke, the angrier he became. His eyes widened. Zhou Xuanji said, okay, I promise you. Let's escape first. Destroying the origin court? Bullish asterisk T. Heavenly Venerable Dawood looked at him deeply and said, don't think you can deceive me. If you learn this divine ability, you will definitely become the enemy of the sovereign. Nangong Jiayin furrowed her brow. She threw Zhou Xuanji a glance, hoping that he wouldn't be impulsive. Now it seemed that Heavenly Venerable Dawood wasn't simple. He was extremely crazy. He actually wanted to destroy the Kunlun origin court. Without the Kunlun origin court, all the universes would be destroyed. Zhou Xuanji fell in a deep thought. He was thinking about how to escape unscathed. He hated this feeling of being threatened the most. Even if it was an opportunity, he still felt very uncomfortable. He had encountered many such threats in the first half of his life. No need. He won't become your disciple. An indifferent voice came. Beast Sovereign tore the space apart. His whole body was wrapped in black chi as he stepped out. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Nangong Jiayin was pleasantly surprised to see him appear. I'm saved. Zhou Xuanji didn't expect Beast Sovereign to suddenly come. Beast Sovereign stared at Heavenly Venerable Dawood and said in a cold voice, he is someone this sovereign has taken a fancy to. Who dares to threaten him? He raised his right hand and patted the air, directly scattering Heavenly Venerable Dawood's soul. The wooden token on the wooden sword flew out and landed in Zhou Xuanji's left hand. Beast Sovereign looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, go back with this sovereign. This mission has made things difficult for you. Beast Sovereign breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Zhou Xuanji was unscathed. At this time, Origin Court War God tore the space apart and broke in. He glared at Beast Sovereign and cursed. Beast Sovereign, when are you going to stop messing around? Wonderful Book House. Chapter 715. I'm not messing around. I will go back immediately, Beast Sovereign calmly replied. When facing Origin Court War God, he didn't call himself this sovereign anymore. It could be seen that the relationship between the two wasn't ordinary. Origin Court War God breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Zhou Xuanji, raised his brow, and said, so it's you. No wonder this guy lost his composure. You are his treasure now. He was afraid that you would break. Break. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. But when he saw Beast Sovereign and Origin Court War God standing together, he couldn't help but think deeper. Nangong Jiayin walked up to Zhou Xuanji and bowed to the two seniors. Beast Sovereign sized her up and nodded slightly. Origin Court War God did the same. Obviously, they regarded Nangong Jiayin as Zhou Xuanji's woman. Otherwise, given their status, they wouldn't have paid any attention to Nangong Jiayin. The sovereign divine fetus is suppressed here. After we leave, we must seal the space here. Beast Sovereign glanced around and said in a deep voice. Origin Court War God frowned and said, Sovereign Divine Fetus? Does it really exist? Beast Sovereign squinted at him and said with a smile, Yes, and it's very nutritious. Do you want to eat it? Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayan's mouths twitched at the same time. It turns out that the Sovereign Divine Fetus can really be eaten. That thing is too terrifying. Can it be swallowed? Get lost. Origin Court War God snapped. Hearing this, Beast Sovereign burst into laughter. It was the first time Zhou Xuanji had seen Beast Sovereign laugh like this. Of course, he had only seen Beast Sovereign a few times. Afterward, Beast Sovereign waved his hand and took Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayan away with his Tao energy. Origin Court War God followed closely behind. As soon as he escaped, he immediately stabilized the space with his Tao energy. Zhou Xuanji and the other two continued moving forward. They were surrounded by darkness. It was the absolute darkness zone. After going back, don't come out. The Kunlun Origin Court is not safe during this time. Daohu Qiuzuan is preparing to invade the Kunlun Origin Court. You should cultivate well. Beast Sovereign stood in front and said. His tone was filled with killing intent. Obviously, he had a grudge with Daohu Qiuzuan. Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow and asked, Is Daohu Qiuzuan so strong? Nangong Jiayan was also shocked. They had encountered Daohu Qiuzuan on their first mission. It's indeed very strong. Its leader is an existence that has refined the 5 ultimate divine eyes to the extreme. He can destroy a part of the universe with a single glance, and his eyes can see through 10,000 worlds. He then changed the topic and said, You must keep an eye on your subordinate, barbaric ultimate god. Don't let him leave pure sword heaven. Zhou Xuanji curiously asked, Daohu Qiuzuan did this to save him. Beast Sovereign smiled disdainfully and said, Barbaric ultimate god doesn't have this ability. Among the 5 ultimate gods, only Daohu escaped. That was Daohu's scheme. He deliberately murdered the other 4 ultimate gods and seized the other 5 ultimate god eyes. He did it. Now his eyes have merged with all the eyes of the 5 ultimate gods. Zhou Xuanji thought about it. The battles in the Kunlun Origin Court were really complicated. Did everyone like to kill each other? Heavenly Lord de Wood was like this, and so were the 5 ultimate gods. After a while, Origin Court War God caught up. He flew to Beast Sovereign's side and cursed. If Daohu Qiuzuan attacks the Kunlun Origin Court while I'm away, you will be guilty. Beast Sovereign waved his hand and said, Don't worry, you are not the only powerful person in the Kunlun Origin Court. If those old guys make a move, Daohu Qiuzuan and his brats will suffer. The two were talking and laughing. They weren't too afraid of Daohu Qiuzuan. Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayan didn't interrupt. The two began communicating via voice transmission. Naturally, they were talking about Xianmao. They didn't know if Jun and the others were still alive. They had a feeling that they were already dead. Under the leadership of the 2 powerhouses, they quickly moved forward. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they returned to the Kunlun Origin Court. This speed shocked Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayan. How strong are Beast Sovereign and Origin Court War God? After returning to the Kunlun Origin Court, Beast Sovereign directly sent Zhou Xuanji and Nangong Jiayan back to Pure Sword Heaven. The two looked at each other, speechless. Nangong Jiayan asked with a playful smile, How is it? Do you want to marry me? Zhou Xuanji, expressionless, said, Go back. Nangong Jiayan said helplessly, How can I go out? It's the evil sky divine range outside. Why don't you let me cultivate here for a while? Take me with you the next time you go out. Zhou Xuanji thought for a moment before nodding. Anyway, Pure Sword Heaven was very big. It didn't matter if she lived in one place. Next, he took Nangong Jiayan to Chang Xiyin and asked her to make arrangements for her. Seeing Chang Xiyin's appearance and temperament, as well as her unfathomable aura, Nangong Jiayan was secretly shocked. No wonder Zhou Xuanji was very well behaved with her. This kid seems to have a lot of beauties around him, and all of them are very powerful. The two women communicated as they flew. Nangong Jiayin was even more shocked after learning that Chang Xian was Zhou Xuanji's maid-in-charge. Isn't Beast Sovereign thinking too much of Zhou Xuanji? She even suspected that Zhou Xuanji was Beast Sovereign's son. After returning to his residence, Zhou Xuanji went to find Xian Xianghua. Jiang Shui and Zhou Shaoxian were also there. Xian Xianghua was afraid that they would leave her behind in terms of cultivation, so she released Jiang Shui and her daughter and used an array to help them slowly get used to the spiritual qi here. She told them about their experiences during this period of time, which made them tremble with fear. It's so dangerous. Jiang Shui held Zhou Xuanji's hand, a look of distress and fear on her face. If Zhou Xuanji really can't come back, what should I do? Xian Xianghua also frowned, but didn't say anything. Zhou Shaoxian raised her brow and asked, "Father, do you like that Nangong Jiayin? This damn girl is stirring up trouble." Zhou Xuanji coldly snorted and said, "I like that you will never get married." Zhou Shaoxian immediately curled her lips upon hearing this. Her current state was to chase after Zhou Xuanji. In Emperor's Sword Court, no one dared to pursue her. She also looked down on those disciples. So until now, she had never fallen in love. Fortunately, she had Xian Xianghua as an example. She could endure loneliness. Her goal had always been to become an existence like Xian Xianghua. Jiang Shui glared at Zhou Shaoxian before asking Zhou Xuanji, "You won't go out again?" Zhou Xuanji grabbed her lily-white hand and said with a smile, "Yeah, I will accompany you and teach you cultivation from now on." It was time for him to stop and have a good rest. On the other side, Beast Sovereign was sitting on a high throne in his palace. A man was half kneeling on the ground. He had goat horns and was wearing purple brocade clothes. "How's the situation?" Beast Sovereign asked with his eyes slightly closed. The man replied, "The people of the Emperor Divine Range have already returned. The news about Old Demon Soul Mover has already reached the Origin Court. Now, the Emperor Divine Range is under investigation." Beast Sovereign said, "I'm not asking you about this." When the Emperor Divine Range was mentioned, his tone was calm, as if the evil Sky Divine Range and the Emperor Divine Range weren't mortal enemies. The man quickly replied, "Ing Zhuge has already questioned the Emperor Divine Range. It won't be long before he takes the bait, which will bring him one step closer to becoming Zhou Xuanji's subordinate." Chapter 716. Increase the intensity and try to get him to jump over as soon as possible. Zhou Xuanji needs his sparring partner, especially for the next test, understand? Beast Sovereign nodded. Ing Zhuge was just a chess piece in his mouth. The purple-clothed man cupped his fists and said, "Yes." With that, he disappeared on the spot. Beast Sovereign fell into deep thought, his eyes flickering with a strange light. After a while, he snorted coldly and said, "Who do you think you are? You want to defeat me? You are not worthy at all." After returning to pure sword heaven, Zhou Xuanji began teaching his wife and daughter cultivation. He no longer went out. He didn't even go to the evil Sky Divine Range. Nangong Jiayin was also cultivating in peace and didn't disturb him. Spring passed and came. Dozens of years passed. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 650 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations. The sword owner has obtained Armageddon Sword of Dragging the Masses, Primordial Chaos Sword of Right and Wrong, Supreme Lord Divine Shadow Sword. The sword spirit's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind, and he opened his eyes involuntarily. Noble Lord Divine Sword? He immediately brought up the information of the ultimate Divine Shadow Sword. Sword name, Supreme Divine Shadow, Sword rank. Noble Lord description. This is the power of a Supreme Venerable. When the sword is swung, hundreds of millions of divine shadows will attack at the same time. Its lethality is extremely terrifying. Using this sword requires at least a perfected, Tao-treading Venerable's cultivation base. Ultimate Venerable? Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. These years, he had often read books and knew many legends about the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhu Zun was one of them. It was said that the ultimate venerable was once the god of war of the Origin Court and was extremely powerful, but he later fell in the process of opening up the universe. Could it be that Zhu Xun was also absorbed by the supreme legendary sword system? Zhou Xuanji was in deep thought. No matter what, he had to seize the time to cultivate. He still had the mission of reaching the Tao ancestor realm within 1,000 years. After that, Zhou Xuanji continued to cultivate. He was getting closer and closer to the late stage of the Tao-treading saint realm. Jiang Shui and her daughter had already begun to break through to the saint realm. During this time, Zhou Xuanji also brought Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, and other trusted subordinates out to help them adapt to the spiritual qi of pure sword heaven. Now, they could already cultivate on their own and lived on the mountainside. "Father, let's spar with our sword skills." Zhou Shaoxian walked over with her sword and giggled. Zhou Xuanji said without opening his eyes, "Go and find Barbaric Ultimate God." Barbaric Ultimate God, who was taking a nap under a tree not far away, heard this and immediately ran away. Zhou Shaoxian pouted. "He's too boring." Zhou Xuanji was helpless. He got up and took out the thunderclap sword and said, "I will teach you a sword technique. How much you can comprehend will depend on your own luck." With that, he began to swing his sword. Zhou Shaoxian was eager to learn and learn quickly. She had a photographic memory and a high level of comprehension. Sometimes, Zhou Xuanji even suspected that she had the supreme legendary sword system as well. Because of this, Zhou Shaoxian would pester him every few years, acting all spoiled and unreasonable, wanting to learn the sword Tao divine art. After he finished practicing the sword technique, he sat down and meditated. Zhou Shaoxian pondered for a moment, then turned around and left. Dragons gave birth to dragons, and phoenixes gave birth to phoenixes. This girl's talent made Zhou Xuanji especially proud. Teaching one's own daughter was the easiest. 3 months later, Chang Xian appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji. She bowed and respectfully said, "Master, someone from the outside world has come to see you. It's Lord Ji Huanglin." "Let him come here," Zhou Xuanji said. It had been a long time since he last saw Ji Huanglin. Could it be because of the mission mentioned last time? "I'm afraid that B Sovereign will not allow him to participate in the mission again, lest he dies prematurely." After 5 breaths, Ji Huanglin appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji and asked with a smile, "Brother Zhou, how's your cultivation recently?" "Not bad, what about you?" Zhou Xuanji replied in unison, smiling. The two had no grudges against each other. In the Evil Sky Divine range, Ji Huanglin was his only good friend. Ji Huanglin said, "Not bad either. I came to you today to tell you about Ingzhuge." "Ingzhuge?" Zhou Xuanji asked doubtfully. What happened to him? After the last mission, Yi Jun and the others disappeared. Zhou Xuanji hadn't contacted them until now. They were most likely dead. This made him a little unhappy with the Emperor Divine range. Of course, he still had a good impression of Ingzhuge. Ingzhuge rebelled and escaped from the Emperor Divine range. Now the Emperor Divine range is looking for him everywhere, causing chaos in the Kunlun Origin Court, Ji Huanglin said with a complicated expression. As soon as he said this, Zhou Xuanji's expression changed. Ingzhuge rebelled? Why? Isn't he the most favored genius of the Emperor Divine range? Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow and looked at Ji Huanglin. Ji Huanglin shrugged his shoulders and sighed. It's because of you that Ingzhuge was found to have deliberately let you go, which angered the Emperor Divine range. Your appearance had already affected the Emperor Divine range's attitude toward Ingzhuge. But now, Ingzhuge was punished by the soul-devouring lightning punishment. In the end, he was rescued by a mysterious expert of the Evil Sky Divine range. He even broke through the Great Tao Wall of the Emperor Divine range. At the end, he couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. His tone was filled with pride. The powerful Evil Sky Divine range feared no one. They even dared to break into the Emperor Divine range. Zhou Xuanji was a little stunned. He didn't expect Ingzhuge to end up like this because of him. What about now? How's Ingzhuge's situation? Zhou Xuanji asked. In all fairness, he still didn't want Ingzhuge to die. He hadn't defeated Zhuge in a fair and square manner. Ji Huanglin shook his head and said, I don't know. But the Emperor Divine Range will send an army to surround the evil Sky Divine Range. Don't go out. At the same time, be careful. Some experts can even sneak in silently. You are definitely more attractive to them than Zhuge. In the final analysis, this was all because of Zhou Xuanji. The Emperor Divine Range must want to kill him as soon as possible. Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. Chang Xian, who was standing to the side, remained silent. But she was also very shocked in her heart. She didn't expect that Zhou Xuanji could cause two super divine ranges to start a war. It was the first time she had seen such a powerful genius. Okay, I will tell you about this. I should also go and join in the fun. Presumably, the edge of the evil Sky Divine Range has already been surrounded by the Emperor Divine Range. Ji Huanglin burst into laughter before turning around and leaving. Chang Xian hurriedly sent him off. Zhou Xuanji, on the other hand, was thinking. Beast Sovereign wanted him to defeat Zhuge, and now he's going to save Zhuge. Why? Super Divine Ranges are really messy. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and prepared to continue cultivating. No matter what, strength is the most important. Just as he was about to sit down, Beast Sovereign suddenly appeared in front of him, scaring him into standing up straight. Before he could speak, Beast Sovereign asked in a deep voice, Zhou Xuanji, what kind of person do you want to be? Huh? The question of increasing my value suddenly appeared. Zhou Xuanji replied, the pinnacle of the Sword Dao. I only seek to be invincible. Beast Sovereign smiled. His smile made Zhou Xuanji's blood run cold. After this matter is over, Zhuge will belong to you. He will serve you forever, just like the barbaric ultimate god. Beast Sovereign's tone suddenly changed as he said with a meaningful smile. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Zhuge will be my servant. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.